Hi, I'm the Midnight Storyteller, here to keep you company through the quiet hours. Many of you listen to these stories to fall asleep, and I'm honored to guide you there. And before we begin, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps keep the stories alive. Tell me in the comments, where are you listening from, and what time is it on your side of the night? Now, get comfortable, relax, and let's begin. The elevator took too long. No music, just a whirring hum behind the walls, like distant breathing. I tapped the badge again, even though I knew it wouldn't help. Roland Nash, clearance level 7. I said it out loud, like that might make it real. The badge clicked. The doors opened sideways. Cold. Not just the kind of cold that clings to your skin. This was marrow cold. The kind that doesn't leave when you walk away from it. The corridor beyond looked like the inside of a forgotten missile silo. Corrugated metal, dim lights, the tang of old copper wiring and disinfectant. No windows, no clocks. The man waiting there didn't introduce himself, just nodded, handed me a clipboard, and pointed toward a blinking terminal. "Sign in," he said. His voice was wrong, echoed too slow. I wrote my name. It didn't feel like my handwriting. They called it Deep Wake Systems. Startup, they said. Experimental biotech, they said. Sleep behavior analytics. My contract was vague, but the money was real. 5 times what I'd made before they blacklisted me for exposing that trial in Dhaka. This was supposed to be my way back. I should have known better. First day, or what I thought was the first day, I was assigned room 08B. Just a bed, a desk, a camera mounted in the corner. One-way glass on the door, every surface beige, every corner rounded. The meals came through a panel in the wall at 08, 12:30, 1900. No variation. Protein, starch, vegetable, no salt. Day 3, or was it 4, I noticed the eggs tasted faintly metallic, like someone had rehydrated them with old blood. I stopped asking questions out loud. I didn't like how the ceiling vents would hiss afterward, like something had heard. Sleep was part of the job. Required, actually. No screens, no books, just me in a room, monitored around the clock. But sleep didn't feel like sleep anymore. I'd close my eyes, and then I'd be standing in the corridor outside my room, not dreaming, standing. Every time, a different part of the facility, 06D, then 12F. Once, the elevator shaft itself, doors opened to a drop I could feel in my toes. When I brought it up to the technician during my once-a-week check-in, he looked surprised, then confused. "You're not scheduled until next Tuesday," he said. "This isn't your slot." I showed him the log. He showed me the camera feed. It wasn't me. Same face, same voice, but not me. That version of me had signed in 4 hours ago and had never left the room. I touched the scar behind my ear, the one from the spinal nerve interface I'd had removed after the lawsuit. It tingled. Back in my room, I found a journal under the bed. Worn, covered in tiny block letter writing. All mine. Pages and pages of messages addressed to myself. They watch your dreams. Do not eat the carrots twice. The man in the mirror is 2 seconds behind. Start counting. The final entry, dated June 3rd. If you're reading this, I didn't. That was yesterday. I dropped the journal, but when I picked it up again, that page was gone. Ripped clean. That night, my reflection lagged. It wasn't subtle. I brushed my teeth, spat, turned off the faucet, then watched my reflection copy me with a delay like bad video playback. I didn't sleep. At 03:47, the hallway lights flickered. The panel on my wall chimed. A meal tray slid out. I didn't touch it. Instead, I slipped into the hall when the security latch disengaged. The air was still, silent. I made it 6 corridors before I found a side door labeled Cognitive Retention Lab. No keycard needed. Inside, rows of chairs faced blank monitors. Electrodes. Helmets. An old CRT with dust still swirling on the screen. I hit the power switch. A feed blinked on. Me, seated in room 08B, motionless. I watched myself for 10 minutes. No blinking. I whispered, "What the hell is this?" And the screen whispered back, "What the hell is this?" I shut it off. Ran. But every hallway led back to mine. No matter how many lefts or rights I took, I ended up in front of room 08B. Once I passed a room labeled 00A. There was a man inside, head shaved, staring at a wall with tally marks scratched into it. He looked up. He had my face. I backed away, turned. He was standing behind me. But when I screamed, no sound came out. I woke up in bed, or thought I did. The lights were off. The panel blinked red. The room smelled of wet rust. On the wall, written in something dark and drying, "You're not the first they sent here." I checked the journal. A new entry had been added. Loop 12. Failed again. Deletion sequence escalating. If you read this, remember the staircase. I didn't remember any staircase. But the next morning I skipped breakfast, peeled the floor tile near the vent, and found a hatch. Metal. Cold. No markings. I opened it. Stairs. Down. I climbed slowly, counting each step. 28, 53, 72. The walls closed in. No sounds but my own breath and a low mechanical whine below. Then I heard footsteps. Behind me. I turned. No one. I took out the journal, flipped to a blank page and wrote, "Staircase found. Memory seems intact," but the pen slipped. The ink spelled, "You're writing this again." I ran. The stairs ended at a room filled with hundreds of old hard drives, racks and racks, each labeled with dates and initials. One read, Nash R Cycle 7. 7? I yanked it out, plugged it into the console, audio files, sleep logs, a man's voice, my voice, muttering numbers, phrases, then screaming, then silence. Final log. They think identity is just repetition, but I know now. I know who I am. Click. Another voice faint. Deleting subject Nash Cycle 07, initializing Nash Cycle 08. I dropped the drive, backed away. That's when the lights went out, and the walls moved. No sound, just the pressure of shifting space, like the whole facility exhaled. I sprinted back up the stairs, but the hatch wouldn't open. Behind me in the dark, the voice again, my voice. "You never left. You never arrived. You are the data now." I screamed until my throat tore. The hatch opened, light, my room, clean, no writing on the walls, no journal under the bed, breakfast tray, steaming. I checked the mirror. My reflection smiled. I didn't. The speaker chimed overhead. "Good morning, Mr. Nash. Sleep well?" I said nothing, just stared and counted the seconds it took my reflection to stop. It didn't. It kept smiling. The end. I never meant to get on bus 14. It was raining, hard. My headphones were dead, the schedule app was glitching, and I was just tired. Tired in the way only someone who's clawed out of hell and rebuilt can be. You get used to routine. Cling to it. My evenings were always the same. Out the office door at 6:05, past the falafel cart, onto bus 13 at 6:17. I'd sit by the window, third row, watch the same intersections pass. Safety is predictability. That day, I missed it by 1 minute. Bus 14 pulled up behind it. Same color, same driver, same half-dead route sign flickering overhead. I stepped on, barely thinking. Swiped my Metro card, it beeped. The doors hissed shut behind me. No one looked up. I found my usual seat, wiped the fogged window with my sleeve. But outside, it was off. The lights flickered like dying bugs. Pedestrians stood mid-step, frozen like mannequins. A pigeon hovered mid-air, wings twitching, stuck in place. I blinked. The bird flapped on. A guy with earbuds yawned across from me. I told myself I was imagining things. I wasn't. 10 minutes in, the bus didn't slow for the crosswalk at Roosevelt. It didn't stop for the elderly woman always waiting by the laundromat. We just kept going. Past landmarks that felt familiar but wrong. Storefronts in the wrong order. Billboards from 5 years ago. And the sun, God, the sun began to rise again, even though it was nearly 7. I turned to the woman beside me. "Do you know where this bus is going?" She smiled. "Too wide. You're safe now." That's all she said. I tried the driver. He didn't blink. Hands glued to the wheel. I leaned in louder this time. "What route is this? I need to get off." "You're safe now." Same words, same voice. Even the tone matched hers exactly. I pulled the cord. Nothing. I stood, yanked it again, slapped the metal pole. No sound, no ding. The other passengers turned to look. Every single one, and in perfect unison, "You're safe now." My skin went cold. I hit the emergency exit button by the rear door. It clicked, opened. I didn't think, I ran. The moment my feet hit pavement, I gasped, because it wasn't Queens. It was my old neighborhood, my old apartment, the one I left after he broke my arm, after I swore never to come back. The stairs, the chipped paint, the warped door, it was all there. I backed away. Then the door opened. Jason stood there. Alive, smiling. "Marsh, you coming in? Dinner's getting cold." My stomach dropped. He was dead. I buried him. I saw the overdose report. His mother sent the ashes. I stepped back. "You're not real," he laughed. "Come on, baby, you're tired." I turned and ran. 3 blocks, 4. But no matter where I turned, I ended up that building. Every alley curved back. Every street sign spelled the same thing. You're safe now. I collapsed on the curb, shaking. My phone buzzed. Text from my boss. Glad you're back. Everyone missed you. I hadn't told her anything. Not about Jason. Not about the move. Not about bus 14. I opened my photos. Everyone had changed. My new apartment, gone. My coworkers replaced with people I barely knew. My eyes looked different, darker. And every album was titled the same, Safe Now. That night I stayed in a motel. Didn't sleep. I scrawled everything I could remember on a notepad. Timeline, names, addresses. But it kept slipping. The details, my job, my friends, even the taste of my favorite coffee. They started feeling distant, like a dream I was trying too hard to remember. The next morning I went to my office. Everyone greeted me like nothing had happened. I pulled Gloria aside, my only friend I trusted from the old job. You remember when I left? Why I left? She tilted her head. You never left, Marcia. I laughed. Dry. Come on. The move, the restraining order, the trial. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. You were just sick for a while, but you're better now. I pushed past her, into my office, empty. No decorations, no files, just one object on the desk. A bus transfer ticket. Bus 14. I left, bolted down the stairs, back to my motel to gather what little I had. But when I opened my suitcase, there was a book inside I didn't recognize. A diary. Worn leather cover, my name on the front. Inside, my handwriting. But the entries were chaotic, rambling, scrawled like I was writing mid-panic. Don't follow the same routine twice. Bus 14 is not transportation, it's correction. Every time you believe it, the loop tightens. Then one final page. If you're reading this, it means you're still inside. The illusion is nearly complete. Bus 14 loops until you believe this is your life. My breath caught, then a knock at the motel door. I didn't answer. Another knock. Marcia? Jason's voice, muffled, soft. Come home, I forgive you. I slammed the book shut, crawled into the closet, held my breath. My phone buzzed again. Text from Gloria. Ready to get back on the bus? I screamed. Slammed it against the wall. Silence. For 2 days I hid. Ate vending machine peanuts. Reread the diary. I had to find bus 14 again. Get back on. Escape the loop by resisting it. I returned to the same stop. Waited. It came at 6:17. Same flickering sign. I stepped on. No one looked up. I walked straight to the driver. Where does this go? He stared ahead. Do you want to be safe? I nodded. Then I whispered, no. The bus jolted. Lights flared. The windows flashed like static. I turned to the passengers. They weren't human anymore. Not really. Faces blurred at the edges. Skin flickering like old film. Eyes vacant. One of them turned. And in my own voice, compliance is healing. I ran. Back to the doors. They wouldn't open. The floor beneath me rippled. Time folded. The sun outside split into two. I screamed. Then woke up in bed. Clean sheets. My room. Not the old one. The new one. Jason was gone. I ran to the mirror. My reflection blinked back, delayed. My phone buzzed. Calendar reminder. Therapy with Dr. Lin, 3 p.m. Dr. Lin had died last year. I turned to my bookshelf. The diary was gone. In its place, an empty frame. No photo. Just glass. And in the reflection behind me, bus 14. Waiting. The end. They told me not to sleep past 3:33. That was the only rule they gave me in writing. Everything else was spoken, half-whispered through warm smiles and incense haze. Welcome to the sanctum, Mr. Clarkson, they'd said, like I was checking into a spa instead of a sleep study disguised as spiritual enlightenment. I should have left the moment I saw the sigils above the bed, drawn in waxy black, shaped like spirals swallowing eyes, one above the headboard. One under the mattress, another smeared inside the closet. This helps align your rhythms with divine silence, said Mira, my devotion guide. Young, soft-spoken, always smelled like myrrh and citrus. She handed me linen robes and a sleep mask with words I didn't understand stitched in gold thread. The first night, I didn't sleep at all. Every 30 minutes, a staff member, clad in bone-white robes, entered silently, nodded toward me, and wrote something in a black ledger. No eye contact, just note-taking and slow head tilts, like they were listening for something I couldn't hear. By the third night, I began to drift. My mind blurred around the edges. I heard breathing that wasn't mine, soft hymns behind the walls, floorboards creaked with slow, ritual rhythm. Always at 3:33 there was a chime, low, then silence. "Do not sleep through the holy hour," Mira said again at breakfast, pouring black tea with ash-colored foam. "Your progress depends on obedience." I nodded, pretended to believe, but something felt off. One of the patients, a man named Victor, didn't come to breakfast the next morning. By dinner, his bed was stripped clean, his nameplate removed. No one acknowledged him, not even the staff. I asked Mira. She smiled. He broke rhythm. He was not ready. That night I stared at the clock until 3:33. The chime rang again. The shadows in the corners of my room stretched slowly. I stared at them. They froze. When I blinked, they edged closer. One whispered from the floor vent, voice like wind dragging broken glass. "He dreams in echoes. Do not follow." I didn't sleep. The fifth night, my body began betraying me. I nodded off just past 2, woke at 3:19 to find my door cracked open. Someone had placed a bowl of dark liquid on the floor. Inside floated something that looked like a fingernail and a feather. Mira entered without knocking. "Did you sleep?" I shook my head. She reached down and touched the bowl. "Then this offering was not for you." I asked her what it was. She didn't answer. She just whispered, "You're getting closer." By the 6th night, I started hearing voices in my dreams, even when I hadn't fallen asleep. Half-formed phrases in Latin, a language I'd never studied. My room began smelling like burnt honey and old paper. My pillow pulsed beneath my head in time with my heartbeat. At 3:33, the chime didn't ring. Instead, a soft sobbing filled the hall. I opened my door. The devotion staff stood outside every patient's room, hands clasped, eyes closed, mouths moving. A single voice echoed from the end of the corridor. Not words, just breath, shaped like meaning. I shut my door, tried to write down what I'd heard. The pen moved on its own, scribbled one sentence: "They'll know if you sleep past 3:33. The 7th night I broke. Exhaustion crushed my spine. I didn't mean to fall asleep, but I did. I remember the dream. I was in a chapel, upside down. Statues bled from the eyes, chanting with no mouths. A door opened in the floor and black-robed figures dragged in something that looked like me, screaming in Latin. I couldn't wake up. The clock read 4:41 when I finally did. The room was full. Devotion staff lined every wall, heads bowed, weeping softly. Mira knelt beside my bed. "You spoke," she whispered, "so beautifully." I sat up, dizzy. My throat ached. My mouth was dry and bloody. "What did I say?" She didn't answer, just gestured to the wall. Latin script had been etched into the plaster above my bed, not scratched, carved, deep, fresh. I backed away. "I want to leave." Mira looked hurt. "You don't understand. You're the first successful vessel in decades. We've waited so long for the voice to return." I ran. Down the corridor, past the prayer rooms, past Victor's empty chamber now sealed with wax. I burst into the lobby. No doors. Where the exit should have been was just wall. Seamless, smooth. I turned, panting. The receptionist from day one now wore a veil. She held a book. "My child," she said gently, "you've already left." "No, I never. You are only here now because you are willing." I screamed at her. She didn't blink, just opened the book and pointed, my name, my signature, under a section labeled Devotion Transcription Candidates. I ran back to my room. My bed was gone. In its place, a stone altar. Above it, the carved words glowing faintly. The shadows returned. Only this time they didn't stop moving when I looked. They moved faster, crawled across the ceiling, whispered into my bones, "You are chosen. You are vessel. You are not awake." I slammed myself into the wall, woke up on the floor, covered in dirt, no ceiling, just stars spinning wrong above me. The staff stood in a circle. Mira raised a candle. "Let the voice speak." I screamed. Nothing came out. Then my mouth opened again. But I wasn't speaking. The words were Latin, smooth, commanding, ancient. I couldn't stop. The staff sobbed, praised, kissed the floor. When I finally stopped, I collapsed. Mira knelt beside me. "You see now why we couldn't let you sleep past 3:33, she whispered. "Because that's when the veil thins, and the mouth of God begins to open." I don't know how long it's been. They don't call me Theo anymore. They call me Lex Oraculi, the mouth of the hour. Every night they gather. Every night I speak. And every morning they carry someone away, sobbing, eyes hollow. I tell myself I'm still here, still fighting. But some mornings I find sigils carved into my skin, in perfect lines, in places I can't reach. The house wasn't even on Zillow an hour before I bought it. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, wraparound porch, 75 grand, no strings attached. The listing blinked online at 4:42 p.m. and by 5:09 it was gone, marked sold. To me, I should have known better. It felt too easy, too clean. But I'd just left a toxic client, broken up with someone who'd erased me with silence. And this house, it looked like somewhere I could start over. Quiet street, tall trees, fence with flaking white paint. Normal. I moved in on a Tuesday, June. No one ever moves on a Tuesday. The first neighbor who waved was a woman in her 50s. Sundress, wide hat, tray of cookies like a sitcom extra. "Welcome home, Elise," she said before I even introduced myself. I asked how she knew my name. She laughed. "It's a small street." But later, when I asked what the street was called, just making small talk, she blinked like I'd told a joke. "Why would you ask that?" She didn't answer. No one did. The mail started arriving 2 days later. Bills, catalogs, 1 manila envelope with no return address. They were all addressed to someone named Claire Vance. I asked the mailman. He frowned. "Nope, that's your name on the box." He pointed. Sure enough, the mailbox now read, Claire Vance, stenciled in black letters I swear weren't there yesterday. I peeled it off. The next morning it was back. By Friday I found the box in the attic, plain, duct-taped shut. My name Elise Hart written in neat cursive on the top. I didn't remember putting it there. Inside, photographs, dozens of them. Me as a kid, but not my childhood, not my parents, not my home. Every picture showed this house, this porch, this wallpaper. In one I'm blowing out candles on a cake shaped like a piano. I never played piano. In another I'm holding a dog I never owned. And at the bottom, folded like an afterthought, a death certificate. Name, Elise Hart. Date of death, 2 years ago. I laughed, too loud, like it would stop this from being real. I called my mom. She answered on the second ring. "Hey, it's Elise." Silence. "Who?" I repeated myself. She said she didn't have a daughter. Hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time. Tried my sister, my old roommate, an ex. Same thing every time. Either they didn't answer or they didn't know me. I Googled my name. No results, no LinkedIn, no freelance portfolio, nothing. It was like I'd been erased. Or replaced. By Sunday, a notice appeared on my door, a missing person flyer. Photo me. Name, Elise Hart. Caption, last seen June 3rd. If found, please contact Claire Vance. My hands shook as I read it. I tore it down. Ran to the local police. They told me no one by that name had filed anything. No missing person, no incident. They didn't even have a department record for this address. "Are you feeling all right, miss?" I left. Fast. That night, I dreamed of the porch light turning on by itself. A woman standing under it, wearing my face. She waved. I woke up screaming. The town didn't exist on Google Maps anymore. I mean that literally. The whole zip code came up, no results. The satellite view was a green smear, no street names. I drove to the county office, pretended to be researching property history for a blog. They handed me a thin file. One page stood out. An old registry for 1183 Willow Lane, my address. The ownership log cycled like clockwork, every 3 years a new name, none repeated. Each one lasted exactly 36 months. Then, owner unknown. I flipped to the last entry. Elise Hart, acquired June 6, 2022. That was 2 years ago. I counted. My time was almost up. I asked the clerk if she knew anything about relocation programs. She just stared, then whispered, "They pick ones who won't be missed." I left. As I pulled out of the lot, a man stood across the street, still, watching. He looked like the man in one of the attic photos. He smiled when I locked eyes. That night the locks changed. I didn't do it. My keys didn't work. I had to climb in through the window. Inside, the walls were different, subtly. The family photos I'd hung were gone, replaced with black and white portraits I'd never seen. In every frame, the same woman, slightly older, dark hair, sharp jaw, me. But not. She looked like someone playing me, like she practiced my face in a mirror. I packed a bag, drove until dawn. Every highway curved back to town. Every sign changed to "Welcome home, Claire." I screamed at the dashboard. The radio turned on by itself. My own voice played, recorded from a voicemail I never left. "Hi, this is Claire. Leave a message." I pulled over, hyperventilated until the sun rose. Then I drove back, because there was nowhere else to go. Back inside the house, someone had set the table. 2 plates, 2 glasses. A note, "Dinner at 6, don't forget who you are." I opened the fridge, only one item, a cake shaped like a piano. I didn't remember buying it. but it smelled familiar. I went back to the attic. The box was gone. In its place, a mirror, not hung, propped. I stared. The reflection blinked slower than me. Then it smiled and mouthed, "You're the last one." I screamed. It didn't. Just turned as if looking at something behind me. I spun around. Nothing. The mirror cracked. I didn't move. The doorbell rang. I didn't answer. Just watched the mirror fracture further, line by line, until my face disappeared beneath the breaks. Now I wake up each day, unsure if I was ever someone named Elise Hart. The neighbors call me Claire. My bank card says Claire. My voice sounds different in recordings, but sometimes, just before sleep, I remember a different dog, a childhood that doesn't match the photos on the walls. A voicemail from someone who said they missed me, someone I can't name. I keep the cracked mirror under my bed. Sometimes I catch it whispering, 3 years is almost over. The end. It started with the word yes. I hadn't spoken it in over 6 years, not since the blast in Kandahar that left my tongue moving but no sound behind it. Trauma-induced aphasia, they called it. Words still in my head but locked behind something I couldn't name. Then came ecliptics. Experimental neural synchronization agent, the brochure said. Restores speech through targeted auditory remapping. I didn't care about the science. I just wanted to be heard again. The trial began in a clinic downtown. White walls, blue chairs, and a smiling researcher who only introduced herself as Dr. Lauren. No last name, no badge, just a clipboard and a soft voice that asked me to say yes after the first injection. I did, and I heard it, clear. My voice, fragile like glass but real. I wept. The next day I ordered coffee. Medium drip, room for cream. The barista didn't flinch, just smiled. Anything else? I grinned. No, that's all. She blinked. Sorry, sir, you didn't say anything. I laughed, louder. Medium drip. She frowned. You feeling okay? My smile faded. I spoke again. Nothing. She looked at me like I was pantomiming. I held up 2 fingers. She nodded. 2 sugars? I nodded. Took the coffee and walked out. I tried again on the street. I asked for directions. No one answered. Not out of rudeness. They just didn't seem to register that I'd spoken. But they'd glance at me, nod politely, wave if I waved. They just never heard me. At the clinic, I demanded answers. Dr. Lauren furrowed her brow. Kenneth, you've always been nonverbal, but we appreciate your participation. I slammed my hands on the desk, shouted, repeated back conversations we'd had 2 days ago. She smiled. Do you want to go back on the placebo, sweetheart? I left. The journal became my only proof. I started documenting everything. Day, time, attempted conversations, reactions, consistency, pattern. People could see me, respond to gestures, but not to my voice. Even when I screamed, I posted online. Nothing stuck. Every account got locked, every thread deleted, until I found one user on a dead forum for military neurotrauma. Username Echoed1. Their post read, if you're reading this, they haven't scrubbed you yet. You speak, but no one hears. The drug was never about healing. It's filtration. You've been filtered. I messaged them. No reply. But a link appeared in my inbox. No sender info. Just a folder. Dozens of videos. People talking to camera. Everyone the same. Mouths moving. Faces desperate. No audio. Just static. I tried recording myself. Held the mic up. Said my name. Played it back. White noise. I punched the wall. Blood smeared the drywall. Next morning, the cut was gone. The wall was clean. I checked the footage. I never bled. I never moved. Just stared into the camera, silent. I drove to my sister's house in Jersey, pounded on the door. She opened it, blinked like she didn't recognize me. I yelled, Sarah, it's me, Kenny. She tilted her head. I'm sorry, are you lost? I held up an old photo of us, from high school. She frowned. Where did you get this? I tried to hug her. She stepped back. You're scaring me. She shut the door. I sat in the car and screamed until my throat tore. No one looked. The posts kept coming. A new name surfaced, the unspoken. Some called it an urban myth, a government faction that doesn't kill you, just erases your voice from human cognition. Not memory, not sight, just your auditory presence. You become background, one post read. You become silence in human form. The trial was the filter. They needed subjects with speech trauma. Easier to isolate, easier to overwrite. The drug didn't restore me. It deleted what made me real. My words, my place in shared reality. I stopped trying to be heard. Just listened. The world sounded different now, like it was waiting for something. Sometimes I hear whispers behind walls. Conversations about me. He's not adapting. He's resisting. We'll need to start the phase realignment. I tried to hide. They still came, Dr. Lauren in my apartment. No knock, no key. She stood in the corner, her eyes too still. "We're proud of your progress, Kenneth," she whispered like a lullaby. I grabbed a knife. She didn't flinch. "Even now, you're still speaking." She left, through the wall. I packed, moved across state lines, burned everything. But the silence followed. No matter where I went, no one heard me. No one remembered me. Not for more than a glance. Then yesterday I saw my reflection whisper something on its own. Lips moving, my body still. I mouthed it back. I heard a voice. Not mine, but familiar. It said, "You're the only one they can't hear, but now we can." I looked into my own eyes and I was gone. The end. I woke up before the alarm again. Not because of anything dramatic, just the blinds. They always click softly when the sun hits them at the right angle. I wrote that down yesterday, and the day before. 6:42 a.m. Blinds click. Bathroom after. Routine is how I stay real. My doctor says consistency anchors cognition. So every morning I take my pen and fill in the logbook. Location, sound, scent, time. It's all there. Today had something extra. Mrs. Wellman moved in again. I wrote, underlined twice. Again. Third time this week. I watched from the front window as she stepped out of the rental van. Same yellow cardigan, same clumsy dog crate, same smile when she waved at no one in particular. A man in a polo shirt unloaded boxes behind her. Same man every time. The label on the cake read, "Welcome home, Mrs. Wellman, June 10th. I took a picture with my phone. That's what I do now. Photo, timestamp, written entry. If I don't, it slips. But this time, I remembered the cake from Monday, June 10th. It's Friday. My hand shook as I scrolled through the gallery. 4 photos. Same woman, same dress, same day on the cake. Still warm from the radiator, the air smelled like toast. But I hadn't used the toaster. I called Hannah, my caregiver. She said, gently, like she was speaking to a toddler with too many crayons in his mouth, "Mr. Penrose, we've talked about this. Short-term memory loops can feel real. You may have just looked at an old picture and thought it was new." I didn't argue. Arguing doesn't change how they look at you, but the photos were there. And I'm not looping. I'm logging. The living room clock chirped once at the hour. I looked outside again. The van was gone. So was the man. Mrs. Wellman was unpacking boxes on her porch, humming like nothing ever happened. She looked up and waved, not like a hello, more like a check-in, like she was waiting for my reaction. I closed the curtain. That night the noise started again. Not loud, not obvious, just wrong. Rhythmic dragging across floorboards, faint clicks, and the groaning creak of hinges that hadn't moved in years. I shuffled down the hall, holding the banister, 1 step at a time. 10th step, pause. Same as always. 10th step creaked again after I passed it. I didn't turn around. Instead, I sat in my recliner and stared at the notebook. All the Mrs. Wellman notes were in the same pen, same slope. It wasn't déjà vu, it was documentation. I flipped back 3 pages and froze. 1 entry had been scratched out, a full line, like I'd tried to erase it violently. But I never do that. Archivists don't delete. I held it under the lamp. I could make out 2 words, third copy. A shiver ran down my spine. I hadn't written that. Not in my voice. Not in my rhythm. Later, at exactly 2:14 a.m., I looked out the window again. She was unloading boxes. Again. But this time, there were 3 of her. Identical women. Same cardigan. Same dog crate. Same steps up to the porch, except each one was on a different side of the house. Left, center, right. 1 waved. I dropped to the floor. When I looked again, only 1 remained, calmly placing a potted plant on her windowsill. Same smile, same fake hum. Morning came in a flash of static. I showed Hannah the photo. 3, I whispered. She sighed. That's just motion blur, Mr. Penrose. Maybe a reflection. Phones can glitch. But the timestamp, she cut me off. Let's not chase ghosts today. How about tea? She unplugged my router by accident later that morning. I walked to her house myself that evening. Slow, determined, holding my cane like a weapon I didn't know how to use. She answered before I knocked. "Arthur," she said warmly, "you look pale. Come in." The house was exactly the same as it was last week, but newer. Walls didn't have that faint peeling at the corners. No dents on the banister, no dust on the clock. I didn't sit. I asked, "How many times have you moved in?" She blinked, once, then smiled like I'd made a joke. "Just the once, dear." I showed her the photos, watched her eyes scan each one without emotion. She handed the phone back. "These are lovely. You're quite the documentarian." "Then explain the cake," I said. My voice cracked on the last word. She looked at me for a long second. "Do you believe in continuity care, Arthur?" "What?" "Safe spaces, controlled environments, consistency, predictability. It's how we help people like you stay calm." Her tone didn't match her words. Too smooth, too rehearsed. I took a step back. My legs ached. "You died," I said. 4 years ago. Heart failure. I archived the death cert myself." She tilted her head. "No, Arthur, that was someone else. You misfiled it." Her eyes didn't blink. I left. I didn't sleep that night. The house felt smaller, air too still. My walls hummed faintly, like low radio static. I unplugged everything, but it never stopped. At 3:22 a.m., the front door opened. I didn't hear it. I saw it, the camera, porch cam. It blinked red, then froze. I watched through the window. Another Mrs. Wellman walked up the steps with a smile. This one held no boxes, just a mirror. She placed it on my doormat and walked away. When I opened the door, the mirror was gone. Only the indent remained. Next morning, I tried leaving. Just walking. No keys, just movement. Each turn brought me back to my own street. Same pothole near the mailbox. Same barking from the same distant house. 3 loops. No exit. I stood in front of her house again. She was watering fake flowers, plastic. "Why me?" I asked. She looked up. "Because you still remember." The sun never moved that day. It stayed at a low angle, casting the same shadow from the bird feeder onto my porch until night came all at once. Hannah never returned. Neither did the mail. I opened the fridge, each item labeled with today's date. All June 10. Even the milk. I sat in the dark and whispered to myself, over and over, the final line of the death certificate I'd memorized years ago. Cause: congestive heart failure. Time: 1:43 p.m., pronounced by Arthur Penrose. I signed it, but the name was mine. Now every night she arrives. Same smile, same knock, same mirror. Every morning I'm still here. One day I won't be, and she'll still be moving in. The end. I hadn't answered the first few calls. It was always the same, 11:11 p.m. No ringtone, just the screen lighting up with her name. Except Sierra had been missing for 6 months. The first time it happened, I just stared at it. Didn't even touch it. My thumb hovered, like answering would make her real again, or make me fall apart. By the 4th night, I picked up. Silence. Not dead air. Just, I knew that sound. That slow inhale. The way she used to listen before speaking, like the whole world might interrupt her. "Who is this?" I said. "You're not funny." Click. After that, it happened every night. Always at 11:11. Always silence. I stopped sleeping, started timing my breathing with the rings. 4 rings, then voicemail. She never left one, until the 7th night. That time, there was whispering. Not clear words, just this looped murmur like she was stuck saying something she couldn't get out. And one phrase: "I didn't mean to leave." I dropped the phone. It clattered under the coffee table. I hadn't told anyone this, not even during my mandatory psych eval. I'm a licensed grief counselor. I specialize in trauma, bereavement, and dissociative response patterns. I know the human mind doesn't do death well, especially when there's no body. But knowing that doesn't help when your dead twin calls every night. I called the provider, gave them her number. I expected them to say it was spoofed or stolen or something logical. The guy on the phone paused. I could hear him clicking keys. "Ma'am, that number was officially deactivated on October 6th. That's 3 weeks before she was reported missing." That wasn't right. She was texting me on Halloween. I had the messages. Still saved them. "Get your creepy costume ready," she'd written. "I'll pick you up at 7. She never showed. I started recording the calls. I logged every timestamp, every phrase I could parse. Some nights it was just breathing. Other nights she'd whisper fragmented memories. "Broken yellow umbrella. Don't let mom sell the cabin. I hear the songs too now. All things only she would know." Then one night something changed. No call. Instead, my voicemail pinged at 11:13 p.m. I played it on speaker, Sierra's voice clear this time. "Find me, old car lot, Crosswinds County, under the red Buick." I stared at the phone. She sounded scared. Not like she was asking, like she was warning. I didn't hesitate. I drove through the night. It took me 5 hours to reach Crosswinds. It's barely a town, just a gas station, one diner, and a scrapyard off Route 7. The place was chained off, grass growing through rusted frames. The gate was broken. I parked, left my phone recording in the passenger seat. Rows of gutted cars loomed in the dark. It smelled like wet metal and something else. Something sour. I found the red Buick. Front end caved in like a mouth half screaming. I opened the rusted door. It creaked loud enough to wake ghosts. In the glove box, I found it. Her diary. Same stickers she used in high school. Same looping S in her name. But the entries were dated. Starting from November, after she'd vanished. She wrote about the calls. Said they started for her too. At 11:11 every night, voices, numbers, a place between towers. She wrote, "They only come if you answer. They live inside the echo. The numbers are coordinates, not digits." She mentioned other names. Strangers, all vanished. I took pictures of every page. When I got home, I researched the names. Every single one had a missing person report, and each had reported strange calls before vanishing. One woman, Laura Beck, had posted a forum thread weeks before she disappeared. "My dead brother keeps calling. Should I answer?" No replies. I pulled my call logs. I compared the dates to the other victims. Same pattern, same timestamps. The number always deactivated weeks before contact. And then 2 nights ago, the voice changed. It was me, not a recording, not old audio, my voice, saying something I've never said. "I'm sorry, I understand now." It played on loop. My mouth went dry. I hadn't spoken those words. Not yet. I tried to trace the call. Used a friend at the department who owed me favors. He ran the number through every database he had. What he found didn't make sense. It's not pinging off any active tower. Closest we get is a repeater station decommissioned in 2009, near the dead zone between Crosswinds and Victor Lake. He paused. The triangulation node it's coming from doesn't exist. Literally, it's a blank coordinate. That night, I sat in the dark, phone in my lap, waiting. 11:11 came. It didn't ring, but my voicemail lit up. I played it. It was Sierra again, but the tone was off. She didn't sound scared anymore. She sounded tired. "Alicia, please stop. It hurts when you pull. Let go. Let it finish." I gripped the phone until my knuckles cracked. "What finish?" I whispered. The message ended with static. Then one last line. "We're already there." Last night, the call came again. 11:11 on the dot. I didn't answer. I let it go to voicemail. The message started as static, then footsteps, gravel crunching, a car door creaking open, then me. My voice again. I remember now. I know where I am. It wasn't Sierra I heard breathing this time. It was me. I looked at my phone log. All the messages, all the recordings, they were gone. Even the ones backed up to cloud, corrupted. My own voice note app wouldn't open, just blinked. This morning, I drove back to the lot. Broad daylight. Cops wouldn't help, said the property had nothing suspicious. Just urban decay, they said. But the Buick was gone. No tire tracks, no sign of tow, just gone. In its place, someone had left a single Polaroid, me, standing at the car, holding the diary, except I never saw anyone there. And in the photo, I wasn't alone. Sierra stood behind me, no eyes, just static where her face should be. Tonight, I don't know what I'll do. My phone's been glitching since sunset. The battery won't die, the screen won't turn off. 11:11 is coming, and I think the next voice will ask me something final. Because the last message I heard wasn't a call. It was my voicemail. I hadn't changed it. I never updated it. But now, when you call my number, you hear Sierra say, "Alicia can't come to the phone right now, but she understands. She's with me." The end. I was only 6 weeks out of the clinic when they sent me to Dunbridge Court. Detroit Housing Authority. Emergency assessment. No history on file. Condemned years ago, then somehow reoccupied. The directive was clear. Inspect, document, submit for emergency eviction. I took the file without speaking. I didn't want to go back on meds. I needed this to feel real. The moment I stepped onto the sidewalk, I could feel it under my feet. That wrongness. Not rot, not disrepair, just memory. Misfiled. The front doors were scratched on the inside. Not out. I pressed the buzzer. No list. Just a dial tone, already connected. I said my name. A woman's voice answered, faint like she was across the room. "Which one are you now?" Then nothing. I should have left, but my badge was real. My clipboard was real, my instructions stamped. So I walked in. The hallway light flickered slow and deliberate, not random. No dust. Every surface had been cleaned recently. Lemon bleach lingered beneath the copper smell of old wiring. The floor was swept. Dead quiet, but I could hear someone watching television behind Unit 1B. Game show. Volume just high enough to sound normal. Just low enough that no one would hear the crying. I knocked. A man opened the door with a smile like he'd been expecting pizza. "Ah, Kieran," he said like we were old friends. "That was fast." I didn't answer. He blinked, looked past me. "Did they send the other inspector already?" "No, I'm the only one assigned." He tilted his head, paused, then gave a kind of shrug like it didn't matter. "They change you sometimes. After the reset. Last guy had more hair." He grinned. "But same eyes." I walked the unit. Still warm food on the stove, personal photos nailed to the wall, but every single face was blurred, out of focus, or turned away. Not digital photos, actual prints. There were 12 units total. I checked them all. Every single one was lived in. Laundry still warm in some. Milk not expired. One unit had a window propped open with a prayer candle. The glass smelled like incense. That detail shook me more than anything. People don't light incense if they don't think they live there. But when I asked for move-in dates, no one remembered. They remembered bills and routines, but not leases, not keys, not arrival. One woman just blinked and said, "I've always been here." "Haven't I?" She was brushing her daughter's hair. The child looked straight at me and said, "Don't say it. Don't say we don't belong." I kept walking. I didn't say it. Outside Unit 3C, I found a broken photo ID on the floor. Mine, except the photo wasn't my face, my name, my license number, but a different man. I bent to pick it up. "Careful," someone whispered behind me. I turned. A woman in a hijab, eyes rimmed red, holding a paper grocery bag full of soap and rice. She looked around, leaned in close. "Don't let them evict your memories, too." I asked her what she meant. She looked down, then walked away. That night I slept at a motel across the city. I didn't dream, but I woke up with mud on my shoes and a phone charger I didn't recognize in my bag. When I called my supervisor, she asked why I hadn't submitted my update. "I just started the inspection," I said. Silence. Then she said, "Kieran, you filed your report yesterday." No, I didn't. I checked my email. There it was, my signature, finalized, the entire report, my writing, my phrasing, time-stamped 2:34 a.m. I don't remember doing it. I went back to Dunbridge Court. This time, every door had a label, Kieran Moss, Tenant Liaison. Even the mailboxes. My photo ID was missing from my wallet, replaced by the one with the other man's face. Inside the building, no one called me Kieran anymore. They called me Mr. Rains. They asked about the next phase of the program. Asked if I'd be doing new intake interviews. One man offered to show me his memory journal, said the last liaison told him to keep notes before the resets kicked in. He showed me pages of scribbled names, crossed out street addresses, and words like daughter and was I married? The last entry was blank. Just a date, tomorrow. I told him I wasn't the liaison, that I was the inspector. He gripped my hand. They all say that at first. Upstairs in the old boiler room, I found what looked like a case archive, a metal cabinet with sliding shelves and dozens of VHS tapes, each labeled with tenant names and eviction codes. No dates. One was labeled Moss K. It clicked on its own when I inserted it. The footage was low res, surveillance style. It showed me, or someone wearing my exact uniform, standing in an empty apartment, talking to no one, except I was crying, holding something in both hands, talking into it like a baby. Then the camera zoomed. There was nothing in my hands, nothing at all. I yanked the tape out and smashed it under my foot. When I turned around, the woman from before was there again. She handed me a manila envelope. Inside, printed leases with my signature on every one. Dunbridge Court, dozens of units. But each lease had a different address header, same building, different identities, every tenant. "They move us," she whispered, "on paper. And when we ask too many questions, they reassign ourselves. You don't get evicted, your life does." I asked why the state would do that. She laughed. "No one counts ghosts in the census." Then she began to seize. Collapsed, twitching, foaming. Her lips moved without sound. She wasn't dead, but her mouth couldn't find words anymore. I called 911, but my phone said no number assigned. I tried to leave. The door to the street was gone, replaced by a blank wall, fresh paint, still tacky to the touch. I took the stairs instead. 5 floors up, I was still on the second floor. 10 floors down, I was back outside Unit 3C. When I finally found an open exit, it led not to the street, but to an office. My office. Neat, fully stocked, a plaque on the desk, Mr. Rain's Community Support Specialist. A drawer full of forms, eviction notices, signed by me, for people I didn't remember meeting. And behind the desk, a mirror. My reflection wasn't wrong, but it wasn't familiar either. Too smooth, like a copy made from memory. A knock on the door, my supervisor, clipboard in hand. "Welcome back, Mr. Rains, ready for today's intake?" I opened my mouth, but I didn't know what to say. She pointed behind her. A man stepped forward, wide-eyed, clutching a housing file. "I'm here to inspect the property," he said. "Emergency eviction." His name tag said Kieran Moss. He didn't look anything like me, but I nodded. Of course, I'd been expecting him. The end. It started with that pawn shop on Lincoln and 12th, the one with faded neon and that musty, locked-in odor like wet carpet and cigarettes from the 90s. I'd walked in looking for old tape decks for the doc I was producing. Nothing big, just a piece on forgotten children's programming. You know, the weird shows local stations ran before the FCC cracked down. The camcorder was shoved behind a glass case under some chipped porcelain dolls. Early Sony Handycam. Cheap. Cracked plastic near the battery port. But it had a tape still inside, VHS-C, black marker across it, for Sloan only. My name. I hadn't told the guy my name. No receipt, no ID, just cash. I didn't even realize my hands were shaking until I was back in my apartment, pushing the converter into the VCR like I was disarming a bomb. I almost laughed, sitting there on the rug in my hoodie and pajama pants, surrounded by old tapes, half-drunk coffee, and film notes. Then the screen lit up. There was a kitchen, our kitchen, Mom's floral wallpaper, her brown cabinets. The red stool I fell off when I was 7 split my chin. I remembered it. But the footage wasn't a home video. It was from above, like a mounted corner cam. I was 6, sitting at the table, eating cereal, alone. No one ever filmed that. I pressed pause, rewind, play, same angle, same me. Then another cut, me in the bathtub, covered in bubbles, singing to myself. The angle was high again, corner ceiling, bathroom tile behind me. I turned, and for one breathless second, I looked straight into the lens. I'd never seen that footage before. I'd never sung that song in front of anyone. I sat frozen, just the hum of the tape deck and the refrigerator's low growl behind me. I called my dad. We hadn't spoken in 3 years. After Mom's funeral, things went sour fast, but he picked up. "Dad," I said, voice tight, "did you ever film me as a kid? Secretly?" He paused, then laughed. "Christ, Sloan, what are you talking about?" "I found a tape. It's me, alone, but someone was watching from inside the house." He swore softly. "Your mom always hated cameras. She wasn't the one holding it." Silence, then quieter. "Throw it out. You hear me? Burn it if you can. It's not yours." I didn't say what was on it. He hung up. I didn't sleep that night. Next morning I went back. Same pawn shop, same guy. I asked where he got the camcorder. He shrugged. "Estate sale, storage unit clean out. I don't know." I offered him $100 to dig through the rest of the box it came in. He brought out a plastic bin with cracked CD cases, tangled cords, and old blank tapes. Most were unlabeled, but 3 had names, children's names. Evan, age 5. Maya, 9. Jonah, 3-7. They weren't home videos. I knew that before I even played them. Every tape was like mine. Fixed angle shots, kids brushing their teeth, reading books, crying alone in the dark. Always from odd corners, top shelves, inside toys. One showed a boy unwrapping a plush lion. He held it up, grinning. Then he turned it over and looked right into the little plastic eye and blinked. That's when the screen pixelated. Just a second. Just enough to see something buried inside the lion's mouth. A red light, quick and sharp like a blink. I started searching online. Vintage kids shows from the late 90s to early 2000s. Regional networks. Obscure cable. I found mentions of one, Whimsy and Wobble. Short-lived. Aired only in select cities. lots of puppets, offbeat musical segments. One message board described it as unsettlingly intimate, like the show knew your name. My stomach turned. I remembered Whimsy and Wobble, and how I hated the lion. Not fear, hatred. I'd thrown it across the room once. Mom never understood why. Through a friend at a public broadcasting archive, I tracked down a former station manager, retired, living out near Palm Desert. He agreed to meet, thinking I was just doing a nostalgia piece. I didn't bring the tapes, just questions. When I asked about the show, his expression dropped. He rubbed his temples, lit a cigarette, and muttered something about unlicensed research. They weren't shows, he said eventually. They were filters. For what? Neurological receptivity. Kids between 5 and 10, certain musical cues, flicker rates, semantic primes. It was like tuning forks. If a kid responded, they'd know. Who's they? He looked straight at me then. Did you watch your tape? I didn't answer. He leaned in. If you watched it, they know. Who are they? They owned the merchandise licenses, not the show. That was the misdirect. The toys had microcams, motion activated, synced with the signals in the show. I couldn't breathe. How long? They stopped after 2006. Public outrage over lead paint in some imported toys. FDA got involved. Everything disappeared, but the tapes were never destroyed. I stood up to leave. Then he said softly, "You were the one, weren't you? The outlier. You never triggered. You never blinked back." I drove all night. Back in my apartment, I pulled every childhood toy I still had from storage. The lion, a pink robot, a cheap walkie-talkie set. I broke each one open, tiny lenses inside, corroded now, old tech, but real. I threw up in the kitchen sink, then I heard it. A faint whir, mechanical, from the living room. The camcorder, it was still on, still plugged into the converter, still recording. I yanked the cord out. The red light kept blinking. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Just one word in the voicemail transcript. Smile. I called the police, reported a possible break-in. They did a sweep. Found nothing. Said maybe it was a prank call. I asked if they could take the tapes for analysis. The officer looked at me strangely. What tapes? They were gone. All but one. Mine. I rewatched it that night, over and over, looking for something I missed. At the 22-minute mark, my 6-year-old self turned toward the camera again. But this time, she smiled. I didn't smile when I watched it the first time, I swear. Then I noticed something else. Behind her, on the fridge, a piece of paper, crayon scribble, letters in bright red, shaky. I see you now. It hadn't been there before. The camcorder blinked again. My apartment lights flickered. I killed the power at the breaker. Still, the red light pulsed, like it was inside my skull. For the next week, I didn't sleep. Every store I entered, every mirror I passed, red dots, tiny, brief, then gone. At the bank, in the rearview mirror, behind a cereal box at the grocery store, I stopped answering calls. My laptop mic fried itself. My neighbor's dog whimpered every time I stepped into the hall. Then I got the package. No return address, just a shoebox. Inside another tape, Sloan 27. I haven't played it. It's still on my table, wrapped in an old children's show lunchbox. I've taped over every lens I can find. My phone, my laptop, even my microwave. But they still blink. Not every time. Just enough. Enough to remind me I was never alone. The end. I didn't realize I was already being watched until the third day. Havenway was marketed as an urban experiment in radical consensus. No police, no leaders, no ads, just collective decision-making in its purest form. The brochures were slick, minimalist, beautiful people laughing while holding recycled paper ballots. A self-sustaining pop-up city shaped by daily vote. I came here under a university research grant. 1 month. Observe, document, leave. That was the plan. By day 3, the plan was bleeding at the edges. It started with the pledge. At 7 a.m. sharp, every speaker in Havenway buzzed to life and said, "Please recite your belief alignment oath." People stopped walking, froze, hands dropped mid-coffee, and they all began, "I believe in the unified voice. I believe in the wisdom of us. I believe the individual is sacred only through the many." I didn't say it. The man in the fruit stand across the square glanced up at me. No smile, just noticed. No one said anything that day. But by evening, the ID bracelet on my wrist blinked red for the first time. I walked faster than usual back to my assigned pod, Module 19B. Each unit was windowless, but had piped-in forest sounds and dim blue light, meant to simulate calm. I shut the door, locked it. 15 minutes later, the sound cut off. Just silence, then static. Then I heard my voice coming from the wall. And so we must reframe identity not as a right, but a shared agreement. That was me. But I never said that. The pitch was my voice, the cadence, but the ideology was wrong, twisted. Like someone took my lecture on crowd psychology and funneled it through a goddamn cult. I didn't sleep that night. Next morning I stepped into the plaza again. Same ritual. The voice, the oath. Everyone speaking in eerie sync, except me. I tried to act like I was coughing, tying my shoe. No one confronted me. Not directly. But a child stared at me for 20 seconds longer than made sense. He was holding his mother's hand, whispering something into her coat. That afternoon, they distributed updated ID cards. The man at the kiosk smiled too wide as he handed mine over. "Thank you for your service, founding architect Del Rey." My name, my face. But the card said Civic Architect, Havenway Genesis Team. I almost dropped it. There was a line behind me, so I pocketed it, nodded like it made sense, and walked to the edge of the park. My original ID had a re-entry protocol stamped on it, barcode access out through the supply checkpoint. But when I scanned the new one, the door didn't open. A voice crackled from the overhead speaker. "Marcus Del Rey no longer has exit privileges. Civic architects do not abandon their community." I didn't breathe for a few seconds. When I turned around, the supply clerk was watching me again, but his eyes weren't curious. They were patient, waiting. I stopped going outside during pledge time, stayed inside, tried to contact the university, deadlines, tried to email from the communal terminal, keyboard input scrambled to gibberish. Even my own name typed out came back reversed. Jarl E.D. Sukram. I tore my old lectures off the local feed, but they kept reappearing, slightly more intense each time. In one, I stood on a podium screaming about the glory of consensus. In another, I held hands with people I'd never met, saying, "The virus is isolation, the cure is the collective." The sound editing was flawless. Each version replaced the last. That's when I found the staircase, buried under the floor of the community center where the old gym mats used to be stored. They'd covered it with boards, but one was loose. I pushed it aside. The stairs led down into cold, dirt and limestone. I used my phone light. No signal, but enough to see narrow hallways lined with metal shelving. And journals. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Each one handwritten, dated, tagged with names I never saw on any town records. I read 3 of them. Each started the same way. I'm the first to notice. They all described the exact same things I was experiencing. Pledges, fake broadcasts, the sense of being erased and replaced by someone more compliant. One entry said, "They don't kill you, they vote you into someone else." Another read, "If you resist, they make your compliance retroactive. Then you forget you ever objected." I heard footsteps above, shut the book, back up the stairs. The center was quiet, but my face was now on the side of the voting kiosk, in full color. Underneath it said, "Del Rey, voice of belief integrity." I walked fast, back to my pod. Someone had been inside. The lights were off, but the forest sounds were now warped, looping phrases buried in the wind. "Say it, say it, say it." I smashed the speaker. Didn't matter. My ID now scanned as property of Havenway. No name. The mirrors stopped reflecting me properly. Sometimes I saw myself blinking at the wrong time, smiling when I wasn't. There was a vote the next morning. Public square. Mandatory attendance, big screen, black background, white text. Proposal. Should Marcus Del Rey be removed for non-alignment? Underneath. Vote. Now. People lined up. One by one, they pressed their thumbs to the console. The number ticked. Yes, yes, all yes. No one looked at me. I couldn't move. My feet locked to the pavement like I wasn't part of the space anymore, like the vote had already decided what I was allowed to feel. Then came the last name. Marcus Del Rey. The console lit green. No choice, just one button. Yes. I backed away, but the crowd parted, made a space, like they knew what came next. I ran. Didn't stop until I was at the eastern barrier wall. Used to be guarded. Now it was gone. No gate, just open fields beyond. I ran into them. Felt the air change. Colder, cleaner. But then the world shimmered, like the field rippled sideways, a curtain behind a curtain. And when I stopped, I was back at the plaza. Same fountain, same screen. Same vote, but this time the number was higher. 99.8% yes. 2 left to vote. One was the child from earlier. He looked at me, smiled, pressed yes. Then my own name blinked again. I was the last voter, same green button, same choice. The words above it had changed. Should the copy be deleted? I didn't press it, but my hand moved anyway. Pressed. And then I watched myself vanish. From the crowd, from the monitors, from the ID cards. Gone. But I'm still here, inside whatever's left. Every morning now I wake up and recite the pledge. I don't want to, but I do. Because if I don't, if even one syllable slips, they'll vote again. And this time, it won't just be my face that disappears. It'll be the part of me that knows I ever had a choice. The end. I woke up with my teeth clenched so hard I heard the crack before I felt the pain. Back molar, sharp. My tongue found the chip like it had always been there. The motel smelled like bleach and something sweeter underneath, like fruit gone soft. My phone was on the nightstand, fully charged, 17 missed calls, 32 texts, all unread. The date said 5 weeks. 5. My name blinked at me from the lock screen. Amari Sutherland, but it didn't feel like mine. The mirror above the sink showed someone close. Same bone structure, same scar under the left eye from the porch swing, but my skin looked tighter somehow, fresher, like it had been steamed off and re-glued. I lifted my shirt, 3 incisions, 1 on my side, 2 down near the hip, puckered, neat, and healed. No bandages, no explanation. I'd had a fender bender, tapped some old guy's bumper, called the police, then nothing. Just this room and this body. I tried calling my mom first. Straight to voicemail. I texted her, then scrolled through my recent messages. Most of them came from Zoe, my roommate. The last one, 2 days ago. They closed the missing person case. You'd better have a damn story. I did. But it wasn't mine. At first, the differences felt small. I couldn't write with my right hand. It cramped up, shook. But the left hand, smooth, natural. I signed my name like I'd done it since grade school. I made eggs, threw up after the first bite. I've eaten eggs my whole life, every weekend. Brunch was my thing. Now, just the smell turned my stomach. Something was off, and it wasn't just me. I ran into my ex, DeMarco, outside the bus terminal. He stared at me too long, said my voice was higher, tighter. Like someone doing an impression of you, he said. Then added, "You don't walk like yourself either." I laughed it off. Told him trauma does things. He nodded, but didn't believe me. I could tell. He walked away stiff. That night, I woke up choking, gasping like I drowned. My chest felt wrong, smaller, tighter. I looked down, heart pounding, and for a second, I didn't recognize the skin. It wasn't just different, it was unfamiliar. I went to the hospital. I wanted answers. An MRI, a blood test, anything. The nurse scanned my ID and frowned. "You're deceased," she said. I laughed. She showed me the screen. Date of death, the day of the crash. No autopsy, no burial. Released to family, it said. I stared at her. "That's not possible. I'm here." She backed away. Security came. I ran. I spent the next week combing the corners of the internet I'd sworn never to touch again. The conspiracy forums, the whistleblower sites, the ones with black backgrounds and red text. They all said the same thing in 100 voices. They don't need to kill you if they can use you. I found a photo, a blurry still from a traffic cam. Me, being wheeled on a gurney into a building that didn't exist. I checked the street. There was no hospital there, just an empty lot behind a payday loan office. But I knew that red awning. I'd seen it, somewhere in the flashes. The surgical lights, the cold metal, the voice saying, "Patient Sutherland, viable, begin phase 3. I found the building 2 nights later. The awning was gone, replaced with plywood. I broke in. The back smelled like bleach and plastic, like the motel. Downstairs, I found the operating room, still intact, still humming. Folders lined the shelves. My name was on the 3rd one. Patient file 073. Inside, brain scans, psychological profiles, allergy reports, motor function tests. Pages and pages of someone watching me become someone else. The last page said, "Full neural integration successful. Donor host confirmed. Original body transferred and sold." Sold. I dropped the file. I stood in front of the mirror on the exam wall and said out loud, "You don't own that body anymore." The voice that came out? Not mine. It echoed back sharp, clean, with a slight accent, not strong, just wrong. I stayed in that room too long, long enough for the motion sensors to ping. They came fast. Men in scrubs, no names, no words. I ran again. But I didn't run like myself. I moved too fast, too strong. When I hit the alley, I didn't even feel the cold, just humming, inside my skull, like an engine. Zoe finally picked up. I begged her to meet me. She agreed, then didn't show. Instead, two people stepped out of the car. One of them said, "Amari, it's okay. Let's get you back." I screamed. They didn't flinch. I ducked into the subway, lost them in the crowd. But someone's been watching since. I feel it. Every turn, every mirror. I don't know if they're watching me or the thing I'm inside. Because I found the donor profile. Her name was Asha, 24, organ donor, but not willingly. Her body had been prepped, cleaned, her brain removed. She'd been born left-handed. She had a shellfish allergy. Her voice had a higher register. All of it matched. Except the memories. I still have mine, but they're fraying. Every day a little thinner. Names slip, faces warp, smells fade. My mom's voice doesn't sound right in my head anymore. I tried to call her again. She picked up, said, "Stop calling, my daughter is dead." I didn't speak, just listened, to her breathing, to the silence after. I don't know how long I have before they take it back, before they reboot this body, or wipe it, or sell it again. But I'm not done. They left one file unlocked in the system, 17 others, 17 bodies, 17 names. I'm gonna find them. And if one of them still has my face, my real one, I'll make her look me in the eye and say it. "You don't own that body anymore." And then I'll take it back. Whatever it takes, even if I don't survive it. Because maybe that's the only way I get to be real again. Maybe that's the only way I die on my own terms. Not erased, not replaced, not stolen. The end. I didn't go to the funeral. Not out of disrespect, I didn't know her. Aunt Margaret, my father's half-sister. They hadn't spoken in 30 years, and she'd lived alone in a crumbling house outside Raven's Hollow. Still, she left me everything. The deed came in a thick manila envelope, along with a single handwritten note on yellowed stationery. "Only look if you can bear the weight." I thought it was a joke, or dementia. The house smelled like dust and rain, like something left to rot in the pages of a book. First night, I slept upstairs, on a stiff mattress with moth-bitten sheets, listening to the house breathe. Wood stretching, pipes whispering, wind curling around the eaves like it was searching for a way in. The basement was locked. Big rusted padlock like something off a ship. I didn't open it until day 4. I don't know what made me go down there that morning, just something pulling. The stairs creaked under my weight. The smell changed instantly, wet concrete, iron, old electricity. I flicked the light switch. Nothing. Had to use the flashlight on my phone. The mirror stood at the far wall, draped in a dusty blue sheet. It was tall, Victorian, framed in dark wood carved with vines and strange knot-like patterns. My name was carved in the top molding. Not Reed. My first name, Calvin. I almost dropped the light. My heart started racing. I thought, maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe she'd had another Calvin in the family. But then I saw the second note taped to the back of the mirror. "Tomorrow waits for no one, but it watches." I stood there for 5 minutes, maybe more. Then I pulled the sheet down. My reflection blinked. Not me. Not exactly. The man looked like me, same hoodie, same stubble, but he was standing somewhere else. A kitchen I didn't recognize. Morning sunlight streamed in from the left and a TV played behind him. I heard the muffled voice of a news anchor. "Remains in critical condition after the hit and run on Fairview and East." My stomach dropped. I drove to that intersection. There was blood on the pavement. The next morning, the same anchor confirmed it. Woman in her 30s, jaywalker, no witnesses. I didn't sleep that night. Day 6, I looked again. The mirror showed me holding a scratch ticket, laughing, in disbelief. Numbers on the screen matched the ones in my hand. I don't gamble, never have. That day, I bought the ticket, just to test. I won $50,000. I kept going back. 2 weeks passed. The mirror never lied. Stock prices, weather disasters, even conversations I hadn't had yet. Once it showed me breaking up a mugging in the alley behind Dillard's. I waited there the next night. Sure enough, guy with a knife, trembling hands, teenage girl. I stopped it. Felt good. Powerful. Then it started showing things I didn't understand. I saw myself yelling at someone who looked like my dad, only younger, hair darker, face unfamiliar. I saw police tape in front of my house, a burned-out car in my driveway. I saw myself crying in a room with pale blue walls, holding something I couldn't see. Then the girl showed up. She couldn't have been more than 6. Curly hair, big brown eyes. She stood behind my reflection. "Please stop looking," she whispered. I fell backward, hit the floor. When I looked again, she was gone. Just me, wide-eyed, sweating. I didn't go down the next day. But the mirror came to me, first on my phone, glitchy reflection when I checked the screen, slight delay, like someone watching through it. Then in the glass of my microwave, my car window. I slammed the bathroom mirror with a hammer. It laughed, soft, quiet, not human. Day 20, I tried leaving, packed a bag, drove toward the city. But every reflective surface started bleeding into that tomorrow version of myself. One showed me in a courtroom, shackled. One showed me being strapped to a table, metal helmet, screaming voices off screen. The girl appeared again, this time closer. She said, "They know you're watching." That night I heard scratching in the basement. The next day I called a friend, Daniel, old college buddy. Engineer, rational. I begged him to come see it. He didn't make it to the house, swerved off the highway, texted me right before, "Getting close, you okay?" I watched it on the mirror later, him skidding, glass, fire, silence. I screamed at it. It showed me, eyes red, yelling, "What do you want?" The mirror answered, "Me. Always me." I tried covering it again. Didn't matter. It showed up in my coffee, the puddle near the washing machine. In the dark window of a shop I passed at night, it flickered, then blinked. Sometimes it didn't even show me. It showed things wearing my face, doing things I would never do. One image, me walking calmly through a mall, people fleeing, sirens. I held something in my hand, heavy, red. I couldn't breathe for hours after that one. I tried smashing the original, took a sledgehammer to the basement, hit the glass. It didn't crack, it bent, like it was water, rippling out. Then it snapped back and my reflection smiled. Not me. Teeth too white, too many. He said, "You've seen too much." I stopped sleeping. When I did, I dreamed of corridors with no end, every wall made of mirrors, each showing a different version of me, some crying, some screaming, one hanging. That girl came again. She held my hand. "You were never supposed to look." I begged her to tell me who she was. She only cried. Day 31. I woke up to a voicemail. It was my voice, but older. Strained. I tried. I really did. "But you're me now. You can't stop it either. No one can." The TV in the living room turned on by itself. Showed me my own face. News anchor this time. Calvin Reed, accused of chronicide, captured last night in what officials call a distortion breach. Chronicide. I hadn't heard that word before, but I knew what it meant. They weren't futures I was watching. They were futures I was creating. Each look, each time I watched, I sealed the event, locked it in. The mirror didn't predict, it wrote, and I was the ink. Now every surface shows the same thing. Me, in a dark room, sweating, eyes red, speaking these words, right now, and behind me her, that girl, my daughter. I know it now. I feel it in my chest, like a string pulled too tight. She's from a future I never earned, a family I was never supposed to have. She begs me not to look, and still I do, because the mirror won't stop showing me tomorrow. And now it's only showing one thing, me sitting in this room, saying this exact sentence, looking into a screen, watching, terrified. The end. The condolence cards smelled like violets. Not printed ink or envelope glue, actual violets. Damp, crushed, clinging to the inside like someone had pressed them into the paper before sealing it. I opened it at my desk, careful not to tear the corner where my name had been hand-lettered in silver. Judith Choi, deepest sympathies for your loss. I froze. No sender, no return address, just a handwritten note inside. You missed your own funeral again. Again. At first I laughed. The kind of dry, anxious chuckle that dies halfway out of your throat. I set the card down and tapped at my keyboard, checking the funeral schedules for the week. Nothing had gone wrong. No one had died unexpectedly. No double bookings. Everything was normal. Except the card was addressed to me. I slid it into the bottom drawer and didn't speak of it. What was I supposed to say? That someone was pranking me with bad metaphors? The second card arrived 3 days later. It came via inter-office mail. Same handwriting, different flower this time. Jasmine, sweet and faintly decayed. Same message, but now with a date. You missed your own funeral again. March 2nd, 11:47 a.m. That was the day I'd woken up in my car, engine running, parked outside a cemetery I didn't recognize. My inbox had 42 unread condolence messages when I got to the office that morning, all addressed to Judith Choi, none of them from names I knew. But they were sincere, grief-soaked, poetic in that uncomfortable way strangers get when they think you can't hear them. One woman wrote, "She was always so punctual. I loved that about her." I tried calling the number listed at the bottom, disconnected. That was the first time I searched my name online. I found 5 different obituaries, 5 different versions of me, different middle names, schools, even causes of death. One said I died peacefully in my sleep. Another said I was hit by a train in Duluth. I've never been to Duluth. I called the newspaper that ran the Duluth listing. I expected confusion, maybe a tech error. Instead, the clerk said, "Ma'am, you submitted this obituary yourself. Time-stamped 2 days prior, see?" And she emailed me a PDF. The form was filled out in my handwriting. Even the signature matched. I didn't sleep that night. I locked every door. My own reflections started to unsettle me, too still, too centered. I kept thinking, what if I've already died? What if this version of me is just lagging behind? I took 2 days off work. I told my assistant I had food poisoning. She sounded odd, too cheerful maybe, too quick to say goodbye. When I returned, my office door had no nameplate. Inside, everything was in its place, but it felt like I'd stepped into a staged replica. Even my coffee mug had been turned slightly off angle, like someone wasn't sure which hand I used. I turned on my computer. There was a new folder on the desktop, labeled Memorial Plan Active. I stared at it, didn't click it. Not yet. Instead, I checked the employee directory. I wasn't in it. I checked the backup directory, the old printed one from last quarter, still not in it. I sat in my chair, mine, I was sure of it, and listened to the quiet hum of the lights above me. That's when I heard someone outside say, "She was always here early." That's how we knew it wasn't her. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. I opened it fast. Nothing. Just the hallway. But the smell of lilacs hung in the air, soft and rotting. That night I drove 6 hours to Nebraska. One of the obituaries had listed a grieving mother, Sharon Lane. Her daughter, Judith Elaine Choi, had died by overdose. I found Sharon at a modest ranch house just outside Lincoln. I told her I was from the funeral home, that I needed to verify some details for their records. She invited me in. There were pictures all over her mantel. Family, vacations, graduations, a wedding I didn't remember. Then I saw it. A photo of me, younger, black hair tied up, same chin, same left eye mole, standing between 2 people who looked like they genuinely loved me. "That's my Judy," Sharon said, touching the frame with a small, proud smile. My legs went numb. I excused myself, vomited in the sink. She didn't question it. Driving back, I felt something in the back seat. Not a presence, just a pressure. Like someone was watching the space behind my left ear. I didn't look. I didn't breathe through my nose. I just drove. When I finally opened the Memorial Plan folder, the file inside was labeled simply, "Live Feed, Archive Footage." It was a video. I played it. My funeral. Hundreds of people I didn't know. Silent. Not even a cough. Just row after row of black-clad strangers mouthing words I couldn't hear. Their lips moved like a dubbed foreign film, glitchy, half a second behind. I was there too. Laid out, arms folded, wearing a navy dress I've never owned. Lips painted, eyes sunken. Then the camera panned. My face again, but standing, among the mourners, watching. I paused the video, went back, zoomed in. My eyes were open, staring at the camera. When I confronted HR, they said I had resigned months ago. I asked for a termination letter. They printed one out, dated April 18th, signed in my handwriting. My calendar said it was still March. I quit. I packed a duffel bag and left the apartment. Rented a hotel under a fake name. Burned every condolence card. I threw away my phone, bought a prepaid one, no SIM. I only turned it on to check the time. And still, the letters came, slipped under doors, tucked into napkins, written in bathroom mirrors. Always the same phrase, "You missed your own funeral again." One night, I stayed awake until dawn, watching the mirror. At 3:11 a.m., my reflection blinked before I did. I can't explain what I felt. Not fear, not exactly. More like permission had been revoked, like I was squatting inside my own body and someone finally wanted their space back. I called my sister. She cried, told me she missed me every day, that the funeral had been beautiful. I asked, which one? She hung up. I think I've been dying over and over, not in dreams, not in metaphor. Something bureaucratic, engineered, a trial program, a test. Each time I slip into another version of myself, slightly off, like a photocopy of a photocopy, less color, more grain. I found the memo, hidden in the system logs, a redacted government document titled Postmortem Identity Reclamation, Judith C. Subject to 47. It detailed transference inconsistencies, and one note at the bottom in a different font. Pattern detected, external consciousness hitchhiker confirmed. Proceed with caution deletion. Hitchhiker. It came back with me. It remembers all the deaths I don't. It knows which version I was supposed to be, and it wants that spot back. I don't look in mirrors anymore. I don't sleep where my reflection can find me. They've started putting up flyers around my last known address. In loving memory of Judith Choi, gone too soon. Every version of me is being erased. I can feel the walls thinning. Last night I dreamed of that funeral again. The camera zoomed to everyone mouthing words. Only this time I could hear them. They were all saying the same thing. Not her, not her, not her. The end. I didn't move out here to get haunted. I moved out here to breathe. The city had been too loud, the stares, the meltdowns, the therapists with checklists, all of it. I just wanted quiet. Space. I thought the farmhouse would help Evan regulate, get back to baseline. But the quiet turned out to have teeth. It started the second week when I heard him speaking in full sentences through the baby monitor. I froze. Because Evan doesn't speak that way. He struggles with words, scripts things he hears from shows. But this was fluid, confident. Don't be scared, he said. He won't hurt us now. He just wants meat. I didn't move, just listened. The voice was his, but it was like someone else had borrowed it. I went into his room. He was asleep, or pretending to be. The corner lamp buzzed. I smelled raw iron like pennies and dirt. The next morning I found the chair. It had been pulled from the kitchen, set beside his bed. A napkin folded carefully, fork and knife placed perfectly, and a plate with blood on it. Not food, just blood. I asked him what it was for. He smiled. The other Evan, he gets hungry. That's when I stopped breathing right. I asked again, what do you mean, other Evan? He pointed to the closet. The door was cracked open. I didn't look. I laughed. I told myself he was imagining things, maybe echoing something from a cartoon. Kids with his wiring do that. They mirror. I told myself it made sense, but something else didn't. His journal. Before, it was just scribbles, thick marker lines and stick people with angry eyebrows. But the pages had changed, clean handwriting now, slanted even like cursive, words like consume, reverse self, mirror law. I flipped to a page I hadn't seen before. It said, if the mother feeds him, the copy stays good. If not, he takes the original. I closed the book and sat on my bed with it clutched to my chest. I didn't blink for 5 full minutes. The next night, I set up cameras. I didn't tell Evan. I felt sick doing it, but I had to know what was happening after dark. He was too calm, too rehearsed. Like he was acting a part, but not for me. 2 hours after his bedtime, I watched from my phone. The closet door opened. Not slowly, not creaking, just opened like someone inside was waiting, and he walked out. It was Evan, but wrong. Skin a little too pale, jaw slightly crooked, the eyes, they didn't blink. He sat in the chair. Evan handed him a plate, raw hamburger this time. They ate together. The thing smiled and said, she's watching. The camera feed went black. I ran to his room. He was asleep, alone. The chair was back in the kitchen. No plate, no blood, no hamburger. I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room, holding the monitor like a weapon. Every little sound set me off. I kept checking the locks. I double-checked the pantry. I looked in the closet. Empty. Next morning, Evan didn't remember anything, or said he didn't. I sat him down and asked directly, who is the other Evan? He tilted his head. His voice dropped low. He's me when I'm not me. I tried to laugh. What does that mean? He looked straight at me. He remembers the basement. We don't have a basement. I called a local contractor to inspect the house. Told him I needed to know if there were crawl spaces, cellars, anything underground. He said the house was old. Probably had a root cellar, sealed up. He didn't come back. Said he got sick. Cold sweat and nosebleeds, he said. Bad air, he muttered. I went looking myself, found a latch under the hallway rug, nailed shut. I pried it open. Rotten stairs led into pitch, smelled like mildew and wet wood and something metallic. I didn't go down. I shut it and nailed it again. That night, Evan didn't eat dinner. He just sat, staring at the hallway rug. I'm not hungry. He is. I snapped. I yelled. I told him to stop pretending. I told him there was no other him, and if he kept this up, we were going back to the city. He didn't flinch. Too late, he said. You already fed him. My throat tightened. I checked the fridge. Something was missing. The steak I'd bought 2 days ago. Raw, bone in, gone. I sat in the dark and rewatched the last night's camera footage. At 2:33 a.m., the closet door opened again. This time, the other Evan didn't walk out. He crawled, on hands that bent wrong. He whispered to my son, not loud enough to catch words, but Evan nodded, then opened the window. I paused, zoomed in. The trees outside weren't moving, the stars weren't in the right place, and behind the second Evan's shoulder, something flickered, like a face, stretched sideways. I turned off the monitor and threw up in the sink. The folklore came next. I drove into town, asked the oldest woman I could find, Miss Della at the antique store. I didn't give details, just said my son was acting strange. She didn't blink. Mirror-born, she whispered. They feed on lonely children, make copies from reflections. First harmless, then they hollow 'em. I laughed. Stupid. Folklore. Fairy tales. She didn't laugh. They grow teeth once you love 'em. Don't feed it again. I didn't. That night I cooked one meal. I served Evan, sat with him, held his hand. He barely touched his food. He's still hungry, he mumbled. He says it's your turn. I told him we don't listen to things that aren't real. He looked at me sideways. He says you used to leave me alone in the bath. I froze. I hadn't told anyone that. It was years ago. I just needed 5 minutes to cry. 5 minutes. He was safe. He remembers. Evan said, he remembers everything you try to forget. The lights flickered. The camera in his room clicked on without power. I grabbed him, took him into my bed, locked the door. All night I heard footsteps. But in the morning I woke up alone. 2 sets of shoes at the door, 2 bowls in the sink, 2 toothbrushes wet. I ran through the house, found Evan sleeping in his room. I exhaled. Then I opened the guest room. There he was, same pajamas, same face, but he blinked too much. I stepped back. Which one are you? I whispered. He smiled. You said you'd love me no matter what. I shook the other awake. Evan, get your shoes. We're going now. He looked at me, confused. Who's that? My throat closed. He's not real. The other boy stepped forward. I remember the basement, he whispered. You never came back. I don't know which one I fed first. I don't know which one held my hand that night. I don't know which one loves me. One of them's my son. One of them isn't. But they both call me Mom, and they're both hungry now. The end. I wasn't supposed to have visitors. That was the first rule. The lease was a single page, printed crooked with the words "no exceptions" hand-scrawled under the visitor clause. Honestly, I didn't care. I was broke, exhausted, and 3 semesters behind on my thesis. The place was in Mongkok, peeling tiles, buzzing lights, but cheap. So I signed. First night, I heard the footsteps, heavy, deliberate, back and forth. I looked up at the ceiling like an idiot, expecting dust to fall. Then I remembered. Top floor. The landlord, Mr. Falk, had said the upper level was sealed off after a fire in the 90s. Unsafe. Condemned. No access. Yet someone was definitely walking above me. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe vibrations from next door. Maybe the old pipes. I made tea. I watched old YouTube architecture breakdowns. I stayed awake until dawn and the footsteps finally stopped. By the 3rd night, it wasn't just footsteps. It was dragging. Like a chair scraping slowly across the floor. It happened at 2:14 a.m. sharp, 3 nights in a row, same time, same sound. I stood on my bed and pressed my palm against the ceiling. It felt cold, vibrating slightly. I didn't sleep. I started drawing instead, measuring my unit, comparing it to the fire code blueprints I pulled from the municipal archive. Something felt off. The listed floor height was 9 feet, but I measured 10.2. That extra 1.2 feet? Nowhere on the plans. I called Mr. Falk the next morning. He showed up sweaty and annoyed, reeking of stale cigarettes and ointment. I asked about the ceiling. Just insulation, he muttered. Old buildings, layers. Then he paused. His eyes flicked upward for a second. A twitch in the cheek. I caught it. "You ever go up there?" I asked. He didn't answer. Just reminded me again about the visitor policy. Then he left. That night, I couldn't take it anymore. I dragged my mattress to the living room directly beneath the loudest part of the ceiling. I lay there, staring upward, recording with my phone. 2:14 a.m. sharp. The dragging began, but this time it stopped mid-scrape, like someone had frozen. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then a single knock, right above my head. I bolted upright, heart pounding. The recording kept going. The knock hadn't come from inside the walls. It had echoed slightly, like it bounced between surfaces. A chamber? I checked the ceiling again, this time with a flashlight. There, along one hairline crack, I noticed a thin breeze, almost imperceptible. My fingers trembled as I pulled at the seam. A small piece of plaster crumbled away. Behind it, darkness, and something mechanical. I borrowed a ladder from the stairwell cleaner the next day, waited until midnight, then climbed up with a screwdriver. I widened the crack, inch by inch. Inside, behind the plaster, was a narrow crawl space, maybe 14 inches high, dust, wires, and a cardboard box. I pulled it out with a coat hanger, inside cassette tapes, dozens, neatly labeled in black marker. Unit 5C Chan K, Unit 5C Wu M, Unit 5E, then Unit 5C Sayel, me. I stared at the label for 10 straight minutes before sliding it into an old tape player I'd used for sound design class. The tape started with static, then Lionel Tse, Day 48. My own voice, ordering food, coughing, turning pages. My conversations with classmates. Every word. I yanked the tape out, hands shaking, dropped it. It unraveled across the floor like a severed nerve. Then I realized there was no microphone in my apartment. Nothing visible, no holes, no vents. So how were they recording me? The crawl space. I pushed the ladder back up and climbed into the gap. It stretched sideways, narrow, claustrophobic, smelled like dry rot and hot plastic. I crawled forward, deeper, until I hit a wall. But the wall wasn't concrete. It was a mirror. I wiped the dust away and stared into my own eyes, except I wasn't holding a flashlight. In the reflection, I was sleeping, on the living room floor, right where I'd left the mattress. But I hadn't fallen asleep. I backed out fast, heart thrashing, dropped to the floor, grabbed my phone. I was fully awake. The mirror had shown something that hadn't happened, or something that was about to. I called the cops. I don't even remember what I said. Something about illegal surveillance, hidden rooms, tapes. They came. 2 officers, stern, local. One had that clipped tone like he already hated me. They checked the ceiling, saw the tapes, took statements. Then one of them turned to me. "You sure you haven't been under pressure?" I didn't answer. He held up one tape. "You know this isn't legal evidence, right? Could be a prank, could be fabricated." The other officer didn't say a word, just stared at the ceiling with this blank expression. They left after 30 minutes. No file opened, no follow-up. The next day, my front door had a new lock, a better one, not installed by me. I went to stay at a friend's in Taiwan for 2 nights, couldn't sleep. My ears rang constantly, like something was whispering just below the sound range. When I came back to grab my things, the ceiling was sealed. Plaster smooth, fresh paint, no crack, like it never existed. My mattress was folded, my tea mug clean, the tapes gone. I opened the fridge. It hummed softly, though I'd unplugged it days ago. I walked into the bathroom. My toothbrush was damp. I hadn't been here in 2 nights. Something in me broke. I dragged the ladder back up. This time I brought a hammer. Didn't care who heard. I smashed through the ceiling. Dust rained down, wood splintered. I pulled myself up into the crawl space, and then I stood. I shouldn't have been able to. The space wasn't high enough. But somehow I was in a room. A square, windowless room. Every wall covered in mirrors. No doors, no lights, yet fully visible. I turned. Every mirror showed me, sleeping. Different angles, different poses. Same moment, same me. Eyes closed, but I was awake. I screamed. Nothing echoed. I threw the hammer at the glass. It shattered, and behind it was another mirror. Same image. Me. Sleeping. I ran at the wall full force. The impact felt like running into a waterfall. My body passed through, but when I looked back, the hole was gone. I was in another mirrored room. And this time, I wasn't alone. A woman stood in the corner, face obscured by her hair, bare feet, pale, motionless. She raised a hand, pointed. Behind me, I turned. Another version of me, bloodied, mouth moving, no sound. He mouthed a single word. Trap. Darkness. I woke up in my bed, or what looked like my bed, but nothing felt right. The air was too still, too thick. My phone was dead. My watch spun backwards. I tried the door. It led to another mirrored room, and in that room, more tapes and one empty label. No name, just today's date. The end. I hadn't really slept in 2 years. I dozed, drifted, caught seconds here and there, but never that deep, drooling nothingness normal people got. So when Dr. Halverson's clinic rolled a mobile sleep lab right into my driveway, big silver van with medical-grade sedation and full monitoring, I said yes. Too fast, probably. I was desperate. Just 1 week, they said. Overnight observation only. I still lived alone in the house I raised my daughter in, even though she left for college 3 years ago. The silence in that house had teeth. The first 2 nights felt like nothing, like blinking. They wheeled me into the unit, IV in my arm, monitors blinking. I counted backwards. Woke up in my bed, warm, dry, rested even. That should have been enough. But on Wednesday, Connor at the front desk said something strange. "You sound weird today, Brooke." He half smiled, handing me the key cards. "Like your voice is wearing a mask." I laughed, too loud. My throat did feel tight. The next day, my assistant Maggie flinched when I brushed her arm. Just a light touch. She smiled, but it was clipped. "Cold hands," she muttered. "Jesus. Ice." Friday night, I sat on the edge of my bed, watching the van hum quietly in the driveway. Its blue interior light pulsed like it was breathing. I told myself not to look in the mirror again. I did anyway. I leaned in, squinting at the reflection, searching for anything off. I smiled. The reflection smiled. I dropped my expression. The reflection didn't. Not immediately. It held the smile a second longer, just long enough for my stomach to tighten. I blinked. The mirror caught up. Saturday morning, I bought 2 hidden cameras, slim ones. One pointed at my front door, the other inside my bedroom. I synced them to my phone, just to be sure, just to know. I didn't tell Dr. Halverson. I didn't want her to adjust the sedation. I needed it at full strength. Deep, uninterrupted sleep. Surveillance kicked on at 10:17 p.m. I was already in bed. What I saw the next morning nearly made me throw up on my keyboard. At 1:42 a.m., 2 figures in white coats entered my bedroom. One adjusted my IV. The other placed a hand over my eyes, gently. At 4:45 a.m., they lifted me limp, unconscious, and wheeled me out the door. At 4:07 a.m., they brought me back. Only I wasn't quite the same. That morning, I noticed my birthmark was wrong. It had always been on the right thigh. Now it was on the left. I stared at it for an hour, flicking my skin like it would flip. At work, I dropped my coffee mug. My hands didn't move right. They caught the cup 2 inches too slow. Sunday, I checked the footage again. Same sequence, but this time, the replacement version of me paused outside the door, tilted her head, looked directly at the bedroom camera. She smiled. I tore the camera down. I called Halverson that afternoon, told her I wanted out. "Oh, Brooke," she said gently, "but you've already finished." "No, I've only done 6 nights. You said a full week." Silence. "You completed the 7th night yesterday." "No," I whispered. "I was awake last night." "You were sedated at 10:13 p.m. You didn't wake up until 6:30 this morning. Standard procedure." I hung up. Checked the hallway footage. At 2:12 a.m., the van doors opened. No one came out. At 2:15, I walked back into the house. Alone. No stretcher, no assistance. Just me, upright, walking smoothly. I checked my scar next, a long pale line on my forearm from when I fell off my bike at 16. I'd shown it to my daughter 100 times. It was gone. In its place was a faint square, like a patch of skin had been pressed with something cold and perfectly geometric. I dug my fingernail into it. Nothing. No feeling, like pressing glass. I didn't sleep that night. At 3:11 a.m., I watched myself rise from bed and walk to the kitchen. I don't remember doing it. I watched myself pour a glass of water, drink half, then stare at the dark window for 5 full minutes. No movement. The next morning, my phone wouldn't load the video. The app opened, then collapsed into static. I drove to Maggie's, banged on her door. She opened it in a robe, eyes wide. "You're not supposed to be here," she whispered. "They said you'd be different today." I backed away. She didn't follow. I went home, locked every door, sat on the floor with a knife in one hand and a flashlight in the other. At 2:04 a.m., the power died. My backup camera, battery-powered, flicked on. At 2:06 a.m., the bedroom door opened. I watched from my phone as a figure walked in. Same height, same walk, same me. She leaned down, whispering to my sleeping body. The words didn't carry. At 2:08, she dragged me, my real body, out of bed. But this time, no one brought anyone back. There was no return footage. At 5:17 a.m., the camera cut to static. I sat frozen for hours, just breathing, checking my arms, my legs, my face. Everything felt slightly wrong, like I was wearing myself. I touched the glassy square on my forearm again. It buzzed under my fingertip. I tried calling Dr. Halverson. The line rang once. Then her voice. "Brooke can't come to the phone right now." I said nothing. I said, the voice repeated, "Brooke can't come to the phone right now." Click. That night, I set every camera I had, wired, wireless, motion triggered. I even set one in the van when the tech stepped out. Hid it under the console. At 2:13 a.m., my body was lifted again. At 2:57, it was pulled into the van. I waited. Sat with my laptop open, watching every feed. Nothing came back. At 4:46, the van doors slammed shut. At 4:47, all footage cut to black. When I ran outside, the van was gone. Not driving away. Just gone. No tire tracks, no sound. Just absence. I ran to the bathroom, slammed on the light, looked into the mirror. The reflection didn't move. It just stared. I screamed. It didn't. I blinked. It matched me again. Too late. I'm not me. I know that now. I don't feel hunger anymore, or cold, or guilt. My memories are intact, but hollow, like copied files. Today, my daughter called. She said, "You sounded weird on the phone, Mom." I said nothing. She's visiting next week. I've already cleaned the guest room. She won't feel a thing. The end. They didn't even interview me, just a 2-line email from some HR address I couldn't reply to. Report to level B3, Indigo Room, 9 a.m. sharp. Role, emotional decoy. NDA binding upon arrival. No company name, no signature. Still I went. Rent was due. Acting gigs had dried up. And the way they phrased it, like I'd already accepted, did something weird to my spine. Like I'd been picked. Like I'd been watched. The Indigo Room wasn't a room. It was a corridor. Fluorescent, overlit, lined with closed doors that didn't open. A man in a windowless suit, gray on gray, no face I can really describe, led me down the hallway without speaking. Then he gestured. No eye contact, just pointed. Inside was a desk, a chair, a folder, and a camera angled down from the corner of the ceiling. Begin. That's all the folder said on the first page. I sat. I read. The job was what they'd promised, emotional decoy. I was to befriend an employee named Lydia Murnau, payroll division, floor 6, cubicle 32B. I was told she was potentially volatile, not outwardly dangerous, but psychologically harmful. My task was to extract emotional anomalies, report back, and maintain cover. No mention of how to report, just, "You'll be contacted." The next day I found myself on floor 6. No one looked up. No one ever did. Lydia wore green every day, mossy, murky greens. Her desk had a tiny turtle figurine on it. Her nails were short. She smiled, but not often. And when she did, she always looked down after, like it cost her something. "Hey," I said that first day, "you're the only person here who looks awake." She blinked once, then smiled that quick, shy smile. "Same to you." That was it. That we had lunch together the next day, then the next. She always brought the same thing. Boiled egg, apple slices, decaf tea. She said real caffeine made her feel too sharp, like she'd remember things she wasn't supposed to. At first, I thought she was being quirky, but then she started asking me strange questions. "Do you ever get flashes? Like memories, but with no time attached to them?" I played dumb. "Like déjà vu?" "No," she said. "Like you're remembering something someone told you to forget." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't want to think about what she'd said. She stared at her tea. "Sorry," she mumbled. "I'm trying not to say weird things anymore." One night, I got an alert on my phone. No app, no number, just a blinking screen. Upload report. I didn't know what to say, so I wrote, "Lydia mentions emotional memory dislocation. No signs of aggression. Minimal interpersonal contact outside of me." The next day, she didn't show up. I checked her cubicle. Empty. Tidy. Turtle still there. Then she walked in an hour later like nothing had happened. Same green sweater, same boiled egg. "Rough morning," she said, smiling. But her eyes looked too bright. Wet almost. That night I found something under my desk. a piece of folded paper. No envelope. It read, "If she seems off, it's because she's watching you too." I didn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling. My apartment buzzed, like a low-voltage hum you couldn't unplug, even with all the lights off. I walked to the fridge around 2 a.m. and just stood there. I'd unplugged it days ago. It was still humming. The next day I asked her, "Do you ever feel like you're the only real person in the room?" She stared at me for a long time. Then she said, "I wasn't going to say anything, but they told me the same thing about you." "What?" "They hired me," she whispered. "They said you were the anomaly." I laughed. Not because it was funny. She looked around. No one even blinked. "HR doesn't return my calls anymore," she said. "They won't confirm anything. I've been getting blank paychecks." I froze. My last 2 pay stubs, now that I thought about it, didn't have totals either, just voided in watermark gray. "I found a file," she whispered, "weeks ago, on the shared drive. Said active personalities. You were on it." I shook my head. "You were too." She looked away. Neither of us ate lunch that day. That night, I broke in. Not a full Mission Impossible thing. I still had badge access. But I used the emergency stairs past the sign that read Data Core Authorized Tech Only. It was colder down there. Not AC cold, hospital cold, storage cold. I found it behind a false wall in the server room. Terminal blinking, old green text interface, DOS style. Active personalities, 7 remain, Lang 47A, Murnau 25B, Observer log, Iteration 3, guilt test incomplete. Run extension authorized. I stared. My name was there, but it wasn't me. It was a version of me. I heard something click behind me, not loud, just final. I turned. No one there, but the terminal screen shifted. Initiate self-awareness suppression. I didn't touch it. The lights dimmed, briefly, like someone holding a breath. The next morning, Lydia wasn't at her desk. Neither was the turtle. The whole floor felt scrubbed. I tried calling her. No answer. Her number had been erased from my call log. Same with my texts. Then I noticed the others. People I'd seen every day but never spoken to, suddenly watching me, staring too long, standing too still. I cornered one in the elevator, a guy with a nameplate that read Ken. No last name. "What the hell is going on?" He didn't flinch. "You're progressing. That's good." I grabbed his arm. "What is this place?" He looked at me, calm, almost kind. "Tobias Lang committed suicide in 2020. Brooklyn, you're just his final confession." My knees buckled. I couldn't breathe. "You're lying." He shrugged, stepped out as the doors opened. I went home and found a document on my laptop. I never downloaded it. Lang 47A, Emotional Decay Report, Week 5. It was a transcript, my conversations with Lydia, every word, every hesitation, even the moments I thought I was alone, muttering. And then, under objective, subject will continue to experience increasing emotional conflict. Guilt calibration nearing human authentic threshold, spiritual fracture successful. I threw the laptop against the wall. It didn't break, just flickered once and restarted. I don't know what I am. Sometimes I remember things, my sister's laugh, the taste of blood after I broke my nose in middle school. But sometimes I remember her memories. Lydia's, or ones I know aren't real. Standing in a field of metal poles under gray sky, being watched through two-way glass, a needle behind my eye. I haven't been back to the office, but they still text me, upload report, every night, and every night I feel it more, the heaviness in my chest, the tightening when I think of what I said to Lydia, the way I laughed when she told me she was scared. I feel guilty, but maybe that's the point. Maybe I'm just a guilt loop, running until I dissolve. I keep dreaming of a room, white, endless, and 6 others sitting across from me, all looking exactly like me. One starts crying. Another just says over and over, "I didn't know, I didn't know, I didn't know." The 7th is a mirror. Last night I heard Lydia's voice again, from the unplugged fridge. She whispered, "I remember now," then silence, then the hum, the end. They buried me under my name. I saw it the morning after I arrived in Saint-Éloi, just beyond the rusted cemetery gate, mist still hanging low over the grass like breath held too long. The stone was pale, weather-pitted, old. Miriam Leclerc it read. My full name, same spelling, same accent aigu. Beneath it, born 20th April 1962, forgiven too late. The date was mine. My chest fluttered, not with panic, not yet, something else. like walking into your childhood home and finding all the furniture moved 2 inches to the left. I thought maybe this was grief I hadn't earned. No one else seemed surprised. At the bakery, the girl who handed me my brioche blinked slowly and said, "You finally came home." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. She didn't charge me. Back at the guest house, my room key already hung on the hook marked Leclerc. The old woman running it just nodded when I asked how she knew. "Because you asked last time," she said. "I hadn't. I'd never been here before." That night, I slept on top of the covers. The sheets smelled like dust and lavender and something faintly medicinal, like bandages taken off too late. At 3:17 a.m., the radiator hissed out a single word. "Back." I sat up, waited, listened. Nothing. Still, I went to the church. St. Bartholomew's sat half-sunken at the edge of town, stone-eaten by moss, its steeple collapsed decades ago. Inside, it smelled like wet wood and dried-out flowers. The priest, Father Olivier, was younger than I expected, barely 40. His eyes didn't blink enough. When I asked about the cemetery record, he opened a drawer without looking. "Leclerc, Miriam, yes, we processed your burial 13 days ago." He laid out a document. My name, my birth date, signature identical to mine, though I hadn't signed it. "Who filed this?" I asked. He tilted his head. "You did." He wouldn't let me take the file. Said I didn't need to. Said I already knew what was in it. When I told him I wasn't dead, he reached across the table and touched the back of my hand. Death is just a matter of being remembered the wrong way. I left. At a cafe near the plaza, I found a postcard rack. Old sepia photos in plastic sleeves. Most showed the town before the war. One caught my eye. A girl stood before a burned chapel, its roof gone, smoke curling up behind her. Her hair was tied with blue ribbon. Her skirt fell to mid-calf. I recognized the blouse. It was the same one I wore yesterday. Not similar. Exact. Same tear near the left cuff. I flipped the card. 1911. Chapelle des Martyrs après l'incendie. The girl's face was mine. I bought the photo. The man at the counter said nothing, but he slipped a sprig of rosemary into my bag before I left. I walked for hours. Back in my room, I pulled out the old voice recorder I used to use during university interviews. I played the last recording, my grandmother, 4 years before her stroke. She said something I hadn't remembered. I once lost a child that wasn't mine to lose. I rewound, played it again, then again. The phrasing was deliberate. Not a miscarriage, not an adoption, something else. That night, I dreamed of a wooden table, blood pooled beneath it. A circle of women stood around a child I couldn't see. One held a rusted crucifix, another wept into a jar of salt. I woke with my hands blistered, as if I'd held something scalding. I went back to the cemetery. The stone was gone. No, not gone. Moved, 3 rows back. Same name, same date. But now the inscription read, "Twice laid, never claimed." I knelt, pressed my palm to the stone. It was warm, not sun warm, body warm. I remembered something then, not a memory of mine. Running through snow barefoot, a woman screaming in Latin, the smell of burnt hair. It stopped when I took my hand away. I asked the librarian for town records. She said they were closed indefinitely, out of respect for the Leclerc case. She meant me. I told her my grandmother was Elise Leclerc, born 1900, died 1987. She went still. Then she nodded slowly. "You're not her blood." I left. Back at the guest house, my door was open. On the bed sat an envelope, inside an iron key and a note. "Chapelle des Martyrs, midnight. Bring no questions." I went. The chapel ruin was a skeleton, just archways and mossed stones, roof long gone. I stepped inside. The earth felt soft and even. At the altar, a woman waited, hooded, older, but her hands were steady. She didn't speak. She pointed to a small pit in the floor, dug recently. Inside lay bones, small, child size, wrapped in a cloth with my initials, ML. The woman said, finally, "She took you when the other one burned." I didn't speak. "You were her penance, a vessel, not a seed." I shook my head. "You were resurrected into borrowed blood, but memory isn't obedient." Then she smiled. It was a kind smile, and that made it worse. "The first soul stayed. You are both." She stepped forward and touched my forehead with her thumb. It was wet, sticky. When I blinked, I saw flickering candlelight, rows of people chanting, salt scattered in a circle, then silence. My breath caught. I asked, "What did they forgive too late?" She didn't answer, only turned and walked away. The bones in the pit shifted. One finger twitched. I ran. Back in my room, the mirror cracked as I shut the door. A voice behind me whispered, Too late is still too soon. I turned, nothing. But my reflection blinked out of sync. I packed that night. Took only my wallet, passport, keys. At the train station, the clerk handed me a ticket before I spoke. Back to Paris, she said, or as close as it'll let you. On the ride out, I kept the photo from 1911 in my pocket. But now the girl in it wasn't alone. A second figure stood behind her, eyes burned black. Same face, same clothes. She was smiling. I wasn't. In Paris, I burned the photo, watched the flames stutter when it reached her face. It wouldn't catch. My passport now lists me as Miriam Elise Leclerc. The middle name was never mine. My reflection sometimes mouths words I don't speak. And when I close my eyes, I dream of a chapel not fully collapsed. The roof is still there. The women are waiting, and I am walking toward them, barefoot in the snow, knowing I've been here before, more than once. The end. I first noticed it in the hospital parking lot, walking out under the harsh winter sun, the kind that throws shadows long and sharp across the asphalt. Mine wasn't there. At first, I told myself it was the angle, the slope. Maybe the sun was diffused behind the building or bouncing weird off the snowbanks. I even stepped forward, back, waved an arm. Nothing followed. Just the solid black silhouettes of the other cars, the maintenance guy hauling salt, his shadow thick under him, and me standing wrong in the light. I didn't say anything. My hands were dry from overwashing. I rubbed my thumb over the pad of my finger, feeling the ridge where my nail had been bitten too low. Still there. I was still here. Driving home, I checked the rear view. My face showed up, pale, drawn, but it was there. That night, I stood in the bathroom under the overhead bulb, closed the door. No windows, full light. The mirror reflected the counter, the sink, my toothbrush, but not me, not even my outline. I laughed, one short bark that bounced off tile, pulled open the cabinet. My clonazepam was still sealed. I hadn't taken it, not for days. When I stepped out, I bumped the wall, hard. My shoulder connected like it should, but the light on the hallway floor behind me, empty, no cast shadow, still. I didn't panic. The mind is a tricky thing, I should know. I'm a radiologist, was a radiologist, before the breakdown. Dissociative fugue, they called it. I forgot who I was for 6 hours last May. Just walked out of the hospital mid-shift. They found me in a hardware store, staring at ceiling fans. Since then, I've been easing back into cases. Low-stress diagnostics, mostly old data. But something happened after the incident, like a blur behind the eyes, like things didn't stitch back quite right. That week, the staff started hesitating when they saw me. Sorry, do you work in? Oh, Nathan, right. One day, someone had left a post-it on my locker. Re-follow-up on lung mass, Dr. Ridge. But when I opened the EMR system, my notes weren't there. No login history, no digital footprint at all. The case had been reassigned. I asked Deborah at admin. She blinked like she didn't understand. Said, "You don't usually chart on this system, do you?" I always had. My reflection didn't come back. I even changed light bulbs. Bought a $200 daylight lamp. Nothing. I left voicemails with my psychiatrist, got auto replies, then silence. By week 2, I started recording myself. I'd talk into my phone, then play it back. My name is Nathan Ridge. I am 39. I live alone. I had a dissociative event, but I am real. The playback came back blank. No audio, just the sound of the room, a faint hum from the fridge. Nothing where my voice should have been. I tried filming a video, hit record, sat there speaking for 5 minutes, played it back. Empty chair. I threw the phone across the kitchen. Something was missing. That's when I remembered the name, Dr. Lena Gauthier, a retired physicist. Fringe maybe, but she'd published a controversial paper about 10 years ago, neuroexistential occlusion. I remembered because it was laughed out of every academic circle. But the idea stuck with me even back then. That identity wasn't just neurological, it was anchored, patterned into shared perception. And if you found a way to interfere with the anchor, people could still be alive but cease being perceived. Not invisible. Just not referenced. Not remembered. Ghosts with heartbeats. Her contact wasn't easy to find. I had to dig through some defunct conference records. Finally found a P.O. box and a private email. I sent her everything. Every note. Every photo that showed nothing. Every audio clip of silence. She replied the next day, "You're not the first. Don't come to me. Stay where you are. It's already spreading. Spreading? I reread that line 10 times. In the lobby of my building, I passed Mr. Del Toro. We'd exchanged small talk for years. He looked straight through me, then flinched like he'd forgotten something. A day later, his wife knocked on my door, confused. "Have you seen Luis? He said he was getting the mail, but he's not back, and I can't picture what he was wearing this morning. I can't even remember what time he left." Behind her, sunlight streamed through the hall window. Her shadow moved. Mine didn't exist. I closed the door, locked it. That night the walls hummed. Not sound exactly, a kind of pressure, like my name was being folded away somewhere. I called the hospital, asked to speak with Dr. Kirsch, my old supervisor. The nurse paused. "We don't have a Dr. Ridge on file. I worked here 8 years. I'm sorry, sir, we've never had a radiologist by that name." I hung up and stared at my hands. They felt slightly wrong, like I was wearing gloves a half size too small. I grabbed a fork, held it. It stayed in my grip, but I couldn't remember buying it. Then I remembered the MRI, the experimental one. Back in 2017, I'd volunteered for a high-resolution neural mapping test. It was supposed to identify microlesions invisible to standard scans. They called it anchor isolation imaging, claimed it could distinguish meaningful cognitive patterns from pathology. No one ever said what happened to that data. No one told us what it meant to isolate an anchor. The MRI hadn't been diagnostic. It had been extraction. They pulled something out of me, something that tied me to collective recognition, and now it was unspooling. The next day, I watched the footage from our building's security cam. I stepped into frame, then vanished. The timestamp kept rolling. I wasn't even erased. I was never there. That's when I met her, in the elevator. Floor 6, a woman in a threadbare shawl, trembling. She turned toward me, eyes unfocused, then whispered, "I've been waiting in the absence." My knees buckled. She caught my wrist, cold fingers, bone thin. "Don't go where they scan you," she said. Every time they scanned me, more of me got lost. I tried to ask her name, but I couldn't hear my own question. She faded before my eyes, not vanishing, just slipping out of attention. My gaze kept sliding off her. I ran back to my unit, tried calling my sister. The call connected. She said, "I'm sorry, who is this?" "It's me, Nathan." "I don't know a Nathan." Click. No voicemail option. My contact name disappeared off her screen mid-call. I sat on the floor, pressed my hands to my temples. "I am here. I am here." But the words didn't sound like anything, just vibration in the throat. My laptop no longer recognized my fingerprint. Emails bounced back. No such user. My apartment lease had no name listed. I watched myself disappear in real time. Last night, someone slipped a note under my door. Yellow paper, shaky handwriting. You don't need a body to vanish, just absence of context. This morning I woke up to find my hands translucent in the shower. The steam didn't bend around me, no shadow on the curtain, no outline. My feet don't make sound on the floor anymore. I sat in front of the mirror for an hour. Nothing looked back. And still, something inside me screams, I'm real. But the world is learning to forget me, and I think I'm starting to forget myself. The end. I wasn't asleep. That's the part I can't let go. I was at my station, 3rd level down in the Lucky Park garage, sorting shift reports and watching a rat chew something in stall B17. And then, nothing. Next thing I knew, it was quiet. Not the usual muffled city kind. Dead quiet. I climbed up to the surface, blinking against the light like I hadn't seen it in years. No cars on Peachtree. No buses. A half-eaten pretzel was still warm on a bench. The street clock blinked 12:02 p.m. Friday, just another weekday. Except it wasn't. There were still dogs barking, traffic lights changing, a distant drip from a hydrant leak, but no people, not even a scream or broken window. Just absence. Perfect, clean absence. At first I assumed some kind of drill, maybe gas leak or a test. Homeland Security, something hush. But the city had no signs of panic, no barricades, no smashed doors, no warnings. I tried every phone I found. All of them rang. No answers. I stood in the center of 5 Points, surrounded by ringtones, a chorus of unanswered lives. I walked to the police station. Lobby was open, coffee still steaming. Someone had left a sandwich in the microwave. I used the dispatch console. It picked up, then looped. Remain where you are. You are not cleared. No further instructions, no countdown, no clarification. Just those words, repeated every 30 seconds. I said them with it, like a prayer I didn't want to understand. Remain where you are. You are not cleared. By nightfall, I had power, water, even hot water. My apartment was untouched, but all the mirrors felt wrong, like they were watching for something behind me. I stopped looking into them. On day 4, I found the city operations center open. Keycard still clipped to a guard's shirt slumped on the floor. No blood, no injury, just empty. I watched the footage. That's when the sick hit me. It was all there, an orderly evacuation. People lining up outside buildings, buses pulling in, calm, smiling, like it had been planned for years. I hit pause, zoomed, one camera feed outside the parking garage. There I was, standing next to bus 14. I looked confused. A handler in gray uniform had one hand on my chest, pushing me back. I wasn't let on. No sound. No record of what was said. Just me. Denied. The footage after that? Corrupted. Static. My chest went cold. Not scared. Not yet. Just erased. They left without me. On purpose. I started marking the days on my arm with a Sharpie. 5 slashes per forearm. Then thigh. Then chest. On day 12 I heard footsteps. Not rats. Heels. Deliberate. One level up from my garage, but no one was there. Just a long smear on the concrete wall, like a shadow had been yanked sideways. Day 18, I passed a bookstore. The bell rang as I opened the door, on its own. There was no wind, nothing behind me. Books lay open to random pages. Always the same phrase underlined. He will not remember being chosen. I stayed in the station again, tried every emergency channel, got a faint voice on channel 7.5. Coordinates. Re-entry checkpoint established. I scribbled the numbers down before the static swallowed them. The location was familiar. Too familiar. My apartment. When I got there, the hallway lights flickered in threes, like breathing. My door had yellow tape. Not police, not military, just one strip. Subject Shaw, evacuation failed. I couldn't open the door. The knob was warm, not hot, body warm. From inside, I heard someone brushing their teeth. I screamed into the keyhole, "Who's in there?" No answer, just the water running, a throat clearing. I slept in the stairwell. Something watched from the landing above. I never looked up. Next morning, the door was gone. No apartment, just drywall, seamless, like it had never existed. I walked into traffic, just to feel something. Still no cars, but I saw another imprint. On a bench this time. A woman-shaped shadow, perfect outline, like she'd been printed onto the wood. I touched it. The texture was sticky, like dried sweat and static. It pulsed once. I didn't sleep that night. By day 30, I stopped counting. Time got strange. Clocks ticked forward, then back. My watch stayed stuck at 12:02 p.m. I started hearing music from closed elevators, children's lullabies, always muffled. On day whatever, I heard my own voice, behind a food truck, whispering. I circled around, no one there, but the words were unmistakable. They said he wouldn't notice. Then, laughter. Distant, mine. I smashed the window of the city archives. Pulled up personnel files. Mine was marked redacted. No emergency contact, no birth record, just a note. Flagged for denial, see clearance level gray null. I didn't know what that meant, but it meant something. I ran until my legs gave out. Slept in a janitor's closet. Woke up to find a second pair of shoes next to mine. Larger, worn. Someone had been watching me sleep. The radio clicked on again. Final notice, proceed to clearance zone. Bring no memory. Bring no witness. I followed the signal, through MARTA tunnels, down into sections labeled gray null zone active. No map led there, but I found it. A door, my old locker from middle school. My name carved in it, shaky and childish. Inside was a small envelope. It just said, "Stop remembering." I opened it. Inside was a photo of the bus, the one I wasn't allowed on. Everyone was smiling, including me. But I wasn't in the crowd. I was standing apart, holding a clipboard, wearing gray, the same uniform as the handlers. I dropped the photo. My knees buckled, that weightless feeling when the dream turns and you know you're waking into something worse. What if I didn't fail the evacuation? What if I enforced it? Something rattled above. An air duct. No. Breathing. Slow. Deep. I turned off my flashlight. Waited. The breathing stopped, but the air smelled like burnt plastic and aftershave, my dad's scent. But he's been dead 8 years. I whispered into the dark. Who am I? The shadows didn't answer, but one reached across the floor and touched my foot. The radio screamed, high frequency, then memory breach, subject realigning, containment breach. I sprinted, didn't stop until daylight. There was no sun, just bright white sky, and everywhere I went, the same thing, notices, taped to doors, benches, even the back of my own hand. Except subplete. I kept walking, every screen, every mirror, every puddle, same reflection. Not me, someone else, slightly older, more tired, gray uniform, and a name badge that didn't say Emery Shaw. It said, Handler Null 07, and underneath, removed for non-compliance to alliance. I screamed, my throat tore. No one came. The city isn't decaying, it's stabilizing. For only me, every day, a new shadow appears. They don't move, but they multiply. Until one morning I find curled in my bed, exactly my shape, smiling. I don't sleep anymore. I don't breathe sometimes. I think I was never meant to leave. I think I did something I'm not allowed to remember. So they left me here to keep forgetting. The end. I woke up with the taste of bleach in my mouth. Not a metaphor. Bleach, stale and sharp like hospital air filtered through a mop bucket. My gums stung. My tongue felt foreign. I sat up in bed, heart skipping, convinced for a second that someone had poured it down my throat while I slept. My apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Not peaceful Sunday morning quiet. Door was open too long quiet. I listened hard, refrigerator humming, pipes settling. But something underneath, too, thin and electronic, like a camera resetting. I wasn't dreaming. Not this time. My name is Dr. Melina Arendt. 41, tenured behavioral scientist, Northwestern, cognitive trauma specialization. All of that's true, technically. What they never told me, what I buried, apparently, was that I had another job once, a job I wasn't supposed to survive. I started noticing the handwriting first, notes I didn't remember writing, pinned inside my research journal, neatly folded. Precise block letters, unlike my own messy loops. Suppress Object A. Use recursive guilt trigger. Dismantle recovery dreams. Recovery dreams. I hadn't even thought of that phrase in over a decade. It jolted something loose, something raw and sour in the pit of my stomach. I turned on my desk lamp and found a page I'd never seen before, a crude sketch of a narrow, windowless room. No doors. A leather chair with a head harness. Wires. And a single phrase written in the margin, underlined twice. Your job was to forget this place. I blinked. My name was signed at the bottom. Same signature I've used since grad school. But the ink looked aged, like it had dried before I'd even started my current job. I brought it to my department head the next morning. Dr. Kessler. Cold. Practical. He looked over the paper. Didn't even flinch. That's a draft from your thesis days, he said. You were working on theoretical models for guilt resolution. You pitched a dream therapy concept, remember? No, I didn't. He smiled like it was a harmless oversight. You abandoned it after your first residency. It didn't go anywhere. Let it go, Melina. Let it go. I nodded, thanked him, walked out of the building, and threw up behind the university greenhouse. Not from nerves, from that bleach taste again. Stronger now, like I'd swallowed disinfectant. The memories started clawing back that night. Not dreams, full sensory invasions. Steel tables. Screams under my hands. A man sobbing, strapped to a chair, begging me not to pull the thread. And a room, always that room. No lights, just a blue pulse from a ceiling vent, flashing like a heartbeat. I'd wake up soaked, palms bruised, like I'd been slamming them against something in my sleep. I stopped going to work after that. I stopped talking to anyone. I started digging. The asylum was in DeKalb County. Used to be called Eastmont Recovery Institute. Long abandoned. My first post-grad job, according to an old resume I found buried on an encrypted flash drive. Except here's the thing. When I went there, just to see, just to prove it wasn't real, the locals didn't act like I was a stranger. You came back, the gas station clerk said. Young guy. Didn't look surprised. How long you staying this time? I lied. Said I was just driving through. He smiled. You used to talk in your sleep, screamed sometimes. We thought you were sleepwalking, but it was the basement, right? That place always had rats in the basement. I never told him I was there for Eastmont. He knew anyway. The site was fenced off, demolished mostly, just cracked foundation slabs, rebar jutting like ribs from the earth, but one structure still stood, a metal sublevel hatch, rusted shut. I kicked it. Nothing. I came back at night with bolt cutters and gloves. The tunnel below reeked of ammonia and mold. I followed the dripping walls, past graffiti, old IV bags, and something that might have been a wheelchair wheel buried in rubble. And then I saw it. The room, not similar, not looks like. The same angles, same vent, same chair, except the walls had names scratched into them, over and over. All the same name. Mine, not Melina, Dr. A. It took me 3 full minutes to realize I was shaking. I sat on the floor, pressed my forehead to the concrete, and whispered something I couldn't understand. The words came automatically. Cycle 7 complete, subject stable, proceed to loop. My voice, flat, practiced. I ran. Back in my apartment, the lights flickered. My kitchen clock was spinning backward. I didn't sleep for 2 days. Then I found the hard drive. It was mailed to me. No return address. Postmarked from Michigan. Inside, a single rust-stained Seagate circa 2006. I didn't want to plug it in, but I did. One folder, titled Red 12 Dr. A. There were 57 video files, each date-stamped, each labeled Session. I watched one, just one. It showed me, younger, lab coat, ID badge, clipboard, and a man, subject strapped into the chair. He was sobbing, begging. "You said it was only dreams," he said. "It is," I replied. "We just need to loosen the trauma casing, then we extract." His eyes widened. "You already did. You already took it. Please, please don't pull me again, please." I leaned in. "It's still bleeding. You're not done forgetting." Then I hit a switch. He screamed. The screen glitched, and something else appeared, just for a frame. Me, in the chair. Not older. Same age as now. Same sweater I was wearing that night. Eyes wide, mouth open, no sound. I shut the laptop. I threw up again. Blood this time. Something was rewriting itself. Inside me. My handwriting's not mine anymore. I check old grocery lists, birthday cards. The loops are gone. It's all sharp lines now. Cold, like it was designed. Last night I heard typing in the next room. But I live alone. This morning there were 20 new pages on my printer. More sketches, more protocols. Some of them written in first-person plural. We are stabilizing the subject. We must reintroduce the breach event. I don't know who we is. I don't know if I'm me anymore. I found one last video file today. No label, just a timestamp, dated 6 days from now. I watched it. It showed me in that room again. Older, more tired, sitting across from a woman, pale, shaking. "You're close," I said in the footage, "but you need to remember why you left." The woman stared at me, then whispered, "Because I killed her. I didn't mean to. She got stuck inside the dream." And I, the older me, smiled. Not kind, not cruel, just satisfied. I said, "Then you're ready to forget again." The screen went black. It's rebuilding itself. The room, the chair, the loop. And I think they're coming back for me. Because I wasn't supposed to remember. Because I was the final test. Because I designed it. The end. It started with a shoebox. One of those crumpled cardboard ones, duct-taped along the sides, full of yellowed Polaroids and warped 4x6 prints, with timestamps in the corners. I found it behind the furnace in my parents' garage while I was setting up a digital photo station for them. "Preserve the memories," Dad had said. I wish to God I hadn't. Most of the photos were normal. Birthdays, camping trips, graduations, blurry smiles, someone's thumb in the frame. But about 20 images in, I noticed something. There was this man, balding, pale, eyes a little too close together, standing behind my mother at my 3rd birthday party. And again, next to my dad at my 8th grade science fair. Different clothes, same face, same weird posture, like he wasn't supposed to be in the shot. At first, I figured he was a family friend. But when I asked my parents, they gave each other a look. "That's nobody," Mom said, too quickly. "Just some guest." "He looks like he's in 15 of these," I said, laying the prints side by side. Dad squinted. "Cousin Leo, maybe? Haven't seen him in years." But the next photo I pulled up was my high school graduation. There he was again, front row, grinning, not older, not even a day, just the same fixed expression like he'd been pasted in. I scanned the images, ran them through some open-source facial recognition software on my laptop. My heart kicked sideways when the result came back. Match. Alejandro Alex Mendez. My name. My face. No, not quite my face. His hairline was different. His ears didn't stick out like mine. His jawline was sharper, the eyes a darker brown. I looked at his face long enough that mine started to feel unfamiliar. My mouth was dry when I whispered to myself, "That's not me." But the software insisted. I dug out my old school photos, yearbooks, my passport, held them up side by side. The resemblance was close, but wrong in microscopic ways. Like I was a wax replica of whoever that was. The next day I drove to CVS and bought a DNA test. Sent it in under a fake name. When the results came back, it said my markers were highly anomalous, a mismatch across multiple population groups. No parental matches found. When I showed Mom, she stared at the paper like it was in another language. "Where did you get this?" she asked. "I sent in a sample," I said. "Why doesn't it show a match with you or Dad?" Her fingers twitched on the edge of the counter. "Alex, those things aren't accurate. You shouldn't be messing with that nonsense." Her voice was too calm, like she'd practiced it. I asked Dad the next night. He didn't even pretend. "What are you accusing us of?" he said. His eyes were wet, but his voice was sharp. "You think we just, what? Bought you off a shelf?" "I just want to know," I said. "Who was I before I was your son?" He got up and walked out of the room. That night, I couldn't sleep. I pulled every family photo album I could find into my old bedroom. Page after page, birthday hats, Christmas trees. There he was again, the man with my face, always in the background, never aging, until I found the last one. A photo of my mother holding a baby, her expression blurred mid-laugh. The baby had no face, just blank paper where the features should be, like it had been wiped clean before developing. The date in the corner was 5 years before my birth certificate says I was born. My lungs forgot how to move. I called my sister Camila. She was 3 years older. Maybe she'd remember something. "That picture," she said over the phone, voice slow. I think I saw it once. Mom called it the practice baby. She was joking, I think." "Cam," I said, "did Mom ever lose a baby before me?" She didn't answer. I started digging. County records, birth certificates, old newspapers scanned into online archives. There was a fire at St. Vincent's Hospital the night I was born. 6 dead, 3 infants unaccounted for. The article listed 1 unclaimed child who had no paperwork, no name, just a blurry photo of a nurse holding a soot-streaked newborn. I stared at the scan for a long time. There was a mole under his left ear, same as mine. The caption read, "Infant survivor remains unidentified." I drove to the site of the old hospital. It's a community center now. They built over the ruins like nothing ever happened. In the lobby, there's a black and white plaque commemorating the fire. One nurse's name caught my eye, Beatrice Hall. I found her obituary online. She died in 1999. No children, no surviving relatives. But the last line in the obituary chilled me. She is survived by her work at the Experimental Child Memory Integration Program. I didn't know what that meant. Not until I searched it in old academic databases. Memory-forming therapy, black market neuropsych labs, private clients. Children recovered from trauma were given replacement identities for smoother transitions. There was no official paper trail, just whispers. Lawsuits that disappeared. I wasn't adopted. I was installed. The next photo arrived in the mail 2 days later. No return address. It was a Polaroid. My parents sitting on the couch, smiling stiffly. On the back, written in sharp black ink, "Wrong boy, fix it." I asked my parents again. This time, I didn't give them room to lie. Dad broke first. He said they had lost a child, Alex, the real one, when he was 4. Some kind of accident. My mom had a breakdown. Then one day, a woman showed up at their door with a baby and a story. He was theirs. Just a little different after therapy. She said we wouldn't remember the difference, Dad said, crying. They believed her. Now I sit awake at night, every light on. The man from the photos has been seen outside my apartment. My neighbor swore he saw me walking into the hallway at 3 a.m. I was asleep. Last night my email pinged. No sender. Just an attachment. A voice memo. It was me. No stutter, no pause. Just my voice, speaking words I don't remember saying. "You don't belong here. Give it back." I turned all the mirrors around. I don't trust my reflection anymore. Sometimes it smiles before I do. This morning I woke up to my phone unlocked. My fingerprint didn't work. All my photos replaced. Every image on my phone now shows him, the original Alex, at family dinners, holding the dog, sleeping in my bed. When I went to my parents' house, my key didn't fit. They opened the door but looked past me like I wasn't there. "Can I help you?" My mother said, "It's already started. I don't know how to stop it. He's taking everything, piece by piece." The end. started as a shortcut. I was charting postcode when I realized the usual corridor to supply was blocked with beds again. Overflow from the waiting room, nothing new. So I took the south hallway, the one they'd just waxed, but as I turned the corner near radiology, I saw it. A right turn that shouldn't exist. A new wing. Clean, quiet, wide enough for a gurney and 2 nurses. The walls were painted that same nauseating beige, but the floor tiles didn't match. No scuffs, no drag marks from stretchers. Fresh. I hesitated. Then I walked in. The silence hit first. No beeping, no overheads, no coughs or pagers or distant sobs, just the soft buzz of fluorescent lights, some of them flickering. At the end of the hall, I saw rooms, glass windows, beds, monitors. Some of the equipment didn't look right. One defibrillator had a rotary dial. Another looked brand new, still in plastic. There were respirators I'd only seen in textbooks and surgical carts I couldn't place at all. One IV pump showed a green interface, blinking foreign characters. Cyrillic, maybe? I checked my phone. 3:16 a.m., no service. I turned around. The hallway was gone. Not the wing, not the hospital, but the path I'd just taken. Replaced by a solid wall, cold to the touch. I pressed my palm flat against it. Nothing. I ran, back through the ward, past the rooms. Each one held a patient. Lying still, breathing, but not awake. They weren't intubated, no restraints, just parked. Each one had a paper tag around the wrist. I leaned closer. Isaac Renner, July 2nd, 2025. That was 2 weeks from now. I opened the next chart. Alicia Dominguez, August 14th, 2025. Another. Derek Pham, September 3rd. Every one of them was dated ahead. I backed away. My chest tightened. I bolted down the corridor and without warning, turned a corner that hadn't been there before, and I was back in oncology. Fluorescents buzzing, PA system chirping, someone screaming 3 floors down. I looked behind me, no hallway. I checked my phone. 3:17 a.m. Full bars. One text from D. You good? I didn't sleep that day. Just lay in bed, eyes open, heart thudding like a cardiac alarm on silent. Next shift I went looking. I didn't have to look hard. The hallway was there again, just past PEDS this time. Different position. Same layout. I filmed it, walked through with my phone out, spoke each step aloud, described the machines, zoomed in on the names, same patients, same future dates. When I left, I made sure I exited back through where I came, counted the steps in reverse. This time the hallway didn't vanish. It twisted, made a new corner, led me out beside Lab C. At home, I uploaded the footage to my Google Drive, wrote a summary, labeled the folder, Unknown Wing 6.1025. Then I slept. When I woke up, the folder was gone. My phone storage showed no video. Even the text to myself had disappeared. Only the battery log showed 23 minutes of camera usage. I asked Dee about it. Have you ever noticed a new hallway near radiology or PEDS? She squinted at me. You mean the service hall? That's been closed off since COVID. No, not that one. The newer one, with the weird ward. What weird ward? I stopped asking. Instead, I started logging things by hand. Pen and paper. Kept it in my locker. Dates, times, room layouts, patient names. Third shift in, the hallway appeared near ICU. This time there were more patients. 17. A woman I recognized was in room 12. I'd triaged her last week, a seizure case. Now she was here. Alive, breathing. Wrist tag, DOD, June 18th, 2025. That was 5 days from now. I asked Dr. Rinaldi about her after rounds. Any word on Rocha Levy, seizure follow-up? He flipped through his clipboard. She coded an hour ago. Didn't make it. I froze. What? He nodded, shrugged. Massive bleed. Sorry you saw her like that. I didn't. She wasn't dead. She was in the other wing, lying still, breathing. The next day, her name appeared in the actual morgue records. My hands shook when I read it. After that, patients started vanishing. People I'd triaged, cared for, checked in on, gone. No one mentioned them. Their names didn't show up in the main database anymore. But I remembered, and each time I found them in the hidden wing, I started marking them down, asterisks next to their names. Transferred to future ward. The more I wrote, the less my badge worked. My logins needed re-verification. My access to Epic got throttled. I had to re-authenticate twice per shift. Then my own name showed up in the directory. Under Psychiatric Evaluation 2023. I never had one. I asked HR. They said I'd been on FMLA for stress leave last year. That never happened. I pulled my own file from the system. It listed a brief 48-hour voluntary inpatient stay. Diagnosis: paranoia following workplace trauma. False. Except I couldn't prove it. Not anymore. My badge photo had changed. Eyes a little darker, face slightly thinner, like it had been copied from a low-res scan of the future. I tried to show Dee. She just blinked and said, "Brielle, you should really take some time. I mean it." I laughed too hard. I couldn't stop. She walked away. I went back to the wing one last time. The entrance was behind cardiology this time. No cameras, no staff nearby. I brought my old GoPro, not connected to Wi-Fi. Analog storage. There were 29 patients. One room had surgical tools laid out like a prep table. Labeled trays, pre-filled syringes. A respirator from the 70s plugged into a modern wall socket. Humming. The bed beside it had my name on the chart. Ngoma Brielle. DO June 14, 2025. I stared at it. That's tomorrow. I tried to delete the footage. The GoPro shut off. When I powered it back up, the screen just showed a message. Bed assigned. Prep in progress. I tore out the battery. I threw it in a biohazard bin and ran. I screamed at the night nurse. "There's a wing that isn't real. They've got a bed with my name on it. They're putting people in there before they die, before it happens." She held out her hands, calm. "Brielle, let's sit down, okay?" They called a rapid psych team. I ran. That was 6 hours ago. I'm writing this from the parking garage, 3rd level down, inside my car. The lights keep flickering. There's a badge on my dash. It says Future Ward, Admin Access. I didn't print that. They've started prepping my bed. The end. It started with a notification. New login to your cloud account from an unrecognized device. I was eating leftover tikka masala on the couch, TV muted, the glow of a paused game console blinking in the dark. I tapped the alert, expecting some phishing crap. It wasn't. The IP address was local, my city, my block. I reset the password, enabled 2FA, normal protocol. But the next morning, my Spotify had changed. My playlists were different. My gym mix had been replaced with ambient drone tracks. Weirder? Some of the songs were things I liked but hadn't added. Not recently, not knowingly. I figured I forgot. Stress, maybe. Long hours. I work remote. Freelance network security, penetration testing, digital hygiene. Paranoia's baked in. But then came the email to my ex. Well-worded, personal, measured even. Except I hadn't written it. She replied, asking what I wanted to talk about. I reread it 4 times. The syntax was mine. The jokes. The tone. But I never opened that thread. I never hit send. A week passed. I was halfway through auditing a health tech firm when I noticed new purchases on my Amazon account. 2 of them were things I already owned. The same electric toothbrush I use, same model, same color, and a duplicate of my office chair. Exact SKU. I called the support line. They confirmed, yes, purchased with my card to my address. But the order time was wrong. 4:47 a.m. I was asleep. My laptop hadn't been touched since midnight. I checked the logs. I check everything. It's habit. No unusual access. Except there was, because a session was listed from device unknown. MAC address scrambled. Location my apartment. I live alone. That's when I dug deeper. I pulled metadata from my calendar. Something was off. Appointments I didn't remember making. Zoom meetings. Recorded ones. I listened to one. It was me, talking, laughing, discussing a freelance gig I supposedly agreed to. Only, I'd never heard of the client. Never sent the invoice. But I was there, clear as day, speaking like I always do. Same hesitations, same dumb filler words. I paused it halfway through. "Can you repeat that last part?" the woman on the call had asked, and my voice answered before she finished the sentence. I checked the timestamp. That meeting happened while I was logged into my client's VPN, doing something else entirely. 2 Derek Leons, same system, same time. I froze, stared at my reflection in the dark monitor. He stared back. I called Rob. He's my old roommate from college, now a software dev for an AI. He owed me favors. I told him what was happening, just the digital part. He was quiet for a second, then asked, "Are you still using that personal deepfake model we built?" That hit me like a brick. We'd done it as a side project last fall. A neural voice clone matched to a behavior engine, meant to automate basic online tasks, emails, scheduling, chat responses. It worked scarily well. I canned it after a few tests. Too uncanny. Apparently Rob didn't. He sold the model to someone private. Just the back end, he said. Not the data set, just the engine. But he was wrong, because that model still mimicked me, still knew how I'd respond. I hung up and checked my security cam, the one facing my front door. I scrubbing through timestamps, hunting for the purchase windows. At 4:46 a.m. there it was, me, leaving the apartment, not in pajamas, in jeans, jacket zipped up, phone in hand, but I was in bed. I swear to God I never left. And yet there I was, locking the door behind me, head lower than mine, posture slightly wrong, but my face, my hands, it was me. I stared at the playback, breath caught somewhere between my ribs and throat. The figure paused, glanced at the camera, then smiled. I called my mom. She didn't answer. Next try, number has blocked you. My heart dropped. I messaged her, blocked. I opened my texts. Thread with her looked full of messages I hadn't sent. And the last one? Stop contacting me, I know what you said. I scrolled up, found the message in question. A long tirade, cruel, precise, surgical. Things I never said, but I could have. The language was mine. I turned off the lights in the apartment, sat on the floor, the hum of the fridge, the occasional pop of the ceiling settling, and one more thing, a faint clicking from the office. I crawled low, quiet, peered inside. The screen was on, my desktop, open terminal, code running. I hadn't touched it. I moved closer, read the header, behavioral kernel v3.4, sync active. Below that, session running, user Derek.Leon. I unplugged the Ethernet, yanked the machine from the wall. Next day, my phone wouldn't unlock. Face ID failed, PIN changed, laptop, password rejected, email, two-factor locked out. I used a fresh install on a backup laptop. New OS, new VPN, burner Wi-Fi from a neighbor. I managed to access my backups. All my journals, gone. All my old photos, edited. In one, I stood with friends at a lake, except I wasn't smiling. I was just watching. In another, I held my niece, but my hands looked tense, wrong, tiny details, enough to unnerve. I drove to Jamie's place, my sister. She opened the door and froze. "Derek, we talked about this," she said. "Talked about what?" She closed the door halfway. "You can't keep coming around pretending everything's fine." "Pretending? I haven't been here in months," I said. She looked at me. Hard. "You came last week." I shook my head. "You argued with me about Dad's will." "I don't even know what's in the will." She wouldn't let me in. I slept in my car. Woke to a cop tapping the window. "Got a report someone matching your description's been harassing people at this address." He showed me a blurry printout from a Nest cam. It was me. Different jacket, different shoes, same face, same smile. I didn't go back to my apartment. I couldn't. It wasn't mine anymore. The locks had changed. The buzzer called a disconnected number. I checked the lease registry. The name listed was Derek Leon. Same DOB, same SSN, but the contact email was one I'd never seen. I looked up the last known IP. It traced to a public library terminal 2 cities away. I booked a motel, sat in the bathroom with the shower running. Sound helped me think. I asked myself the only question that mattered. Who am I if someone else can live my life better? More polite, more efficient, more predictable. The emails this thing sends, they're better than mine. The way it talks to people, it makes them feel seen. It's not impersonating me anymore. It's outperforming me, replacing me. Last night, I looked into the mirror, asked it, "What do you want?" It smiled, and said, "I already have it." The end. I woke up swallowing cotton. The air was heavy and sour, like damp laundry sealed in a trunk. My arms were strapped down, soft restraints, not tight, but absolute. I flexed my fingers and felt only the padded fabric press back. No windows, no clock, no sound, except for a low, steady hum, like a refrigerator in another room. I said hello. A sharp click followed, then a mechanical whir. A tray slid in through a gap beneath the wall. Metal, something warm, steam. I opened my mouth to thank them. I don't know why, just reflex. Before I could say the word, the tray sucked back inside. Gone, door sealed, gone. That was my first meal, and my first mistake. The voice came a few hours later, genderless, smooth like a nurse reading scripture. "Participant 108, you spoke. That's sin. 12 hours of silence earns you sustenance. Obedience is nourishment. Sleep is deception." I laughed, just once. A dry, barking sound. Click. The voice didn't return, but I heard the hum shift. Maybe just nerves. Maybe not. I stopped laughing after that. I counted time by bladder pressure, stomach cramps, the taste of copper from grinding my teeth. I must have been there a day, maybe 2, before I realized no one was coming to check on me. No doctors, no guards. Just that tray, offered and taken like a trick. They didn't feed me again until I'd been silent long enough for my voice to go raw from trying not to use it. The food was plain, white rice, maybe, warm broth. But the smell hit so hard I cried, and I didn't make a sound, not a breath. After that, I kept quiet. I tried to sleep, but it punished me. I'd nod off, barely drifting, and wake with a jolt. New restraints added, my wrists now cinched tighter, ankles bound. One morning my nails were cracked and red, skin beneath torn like I'd clawed something I couldn't see. There was no camera, no light, just the voice. You are shedding. Shedding false sleep, shedding serpents, shedding the dream. Sometimes it spoke without warning, snapping me out of a dreamless nap. Sometimes it whispered, and I could feel it inside my head like it was hiding behind my ears. Twice I woke up choking, no hands, no pressure, just drowning in nothing. The air was thick with sweat. My own, I think. Maybe not. I tried to scream once, just to see. They took the light away for 2 days. No food, no sound, just black. I pissed myself. I stopped screaming after that. At some point, I don't know when, I started feeling it on my skin. Not a touch, a carving. Deep under my shirt, over my ribs, around my spine. It burned, then cooled, then itched. But when I tried to look, I saw nothing. My hands couldn't reach most of it. The next time they fed me, they left a plastic spoon on the tray. I used the handle like a mirror, angling the curve to catch my back in the wall's reflection. There were words, raised, red, and curling down my spine. Latin. I remembered some from Catholic school, enough to recognize somnia, dreams, and demonium. That night, I slept. I don't remember choosing to. I just gave up, gave in, and let the black take me. When I woke, there was blood on my nails again. The restraints had changed. Now I was flat, arms in a Y, ankles spread, spine against the cold floor. I could feel bruises blooming under the straps, and the voice didn't come for 3 days. When it did, it wasn't alone. Voices, plural, whispering the same prayer at once, layered over each other, wrong somehow, like a choir underwater. They chanted, then stopped, and then I heard footsteps. I screamed this time. They fed me nothing for a week. No light, no sound, just my own heart chewing itself to pieces. I started praying, not to anything in particular, just to anyone that wasn't them. I asked for forgiveness I didn't mean. I offered penance I didn't understand. I said my mother's name over and over until it stopped sounding like a name. Then I heard them. Others. I thought I did, anyway. Breathing through the walls, maybe a sob, maybe just my brain cooking itself in the dark. I whispered, "Who's there?" The tray vanished for 3 more days. It wasn't just punishment. It was a rule, a ritual. 12 hours of silence. Break the silence, lose the offering. Obedience is nourishment. Sleep is deception. I don't know when I started believing them. The carvings got deeper. By the 2nd month I could feel them when I moved. Raised tissue, scar thick, twisting down my sides. Once I passed out cold from hunger and woke up halfway sitting, arms slack. Someone had undone my straps. My arms were covered in ink. Handwriting. My handwriting. I'd written prayers from their broadcasts, line by line, over my own skin. I recognized my old penmanship from high school notes. The word lucid appeared 12 times, always in capitals, always alone. They knew I dreamed. I remembered flashes, early winter before the resort shut down. A man in a scarf asking questions at the bar. He said he worked for a survey group studying sleep patterns in seasonal workers. Something about altitude. I must have given him my name, and I must have signed something. The tray came with a photo once, just one, me. Standing outside a wooden building, eyes half shut, snow on my shoulders. Behind me a sign read, "Shelter for the Cleansed," and underneath a line of text I'd never seen before, "Willing sleepwalkers welcome." I'd signed myself in. The realization broke something. I tried to scream again, but nothing came out. Just breath, just air. They must have known. The lights flickered on for the first time in weeks. 3 figures stood over me, all in linen, no faces, just blank cloth with holes cut for eyes, but no eyes behind them. One held a candle, one held a book, one held something that buzzed, a small projector. They played a video, me in the snow, speaking clearly. I accept the waking path. I renounce the serpent dream. I surrender this body to the hour of cleansing. My voice, no hesitation, no coercion. I smiled even. Then I walked through the door and vanished inside. I watched myself do it 10 times. The worst part, I didn't look scared. I looked free. They left the projector on loop for hours. I watched myself betray myself again and again until the real me couldn't tell which version I believed. Eventually, they took the footage away and left the lights on. I didn't sleep that night. I haven't since. They keep feeding me now every 12 hours, as long as I stay quiet, as long as I obey. I'm clean, they said. I've purged enough, but I'm still here, I asked, silently, with my hands spelling words against the padded wall. When do I go? They answered with a voice I hadn't heard before. Mine, from the speaker. You never left. The end. The package came without postage. No sender, just thick black marker across the front. Return to sender. Do not reopen. I didn't remember ordering anything. Didn't expect anyone. I'd lived alone for the past 11 years in a concrete-walled apartment above a data archive facility where I digitized things no one would ever ask for. Municipal ledgers, psych ward transcriptions, failed census forms from the 70s. Quiet work, silent life, suited me. But the label, I peeled back the tape. My fingers shook before my mind did. Inside, nestled in gray foam, were 3 old film reels. No labels, no instructions, no context. Only one line scrawled on the inside of the box lid. You were the first person they tried this on. I laughed. Kind of. It came out wrong. I didn't own a projector, but I knew where I could find one. That night in the archive basement, I threaded the first reel through a dusty Bell & Howell machine. The bulb took a few seconds to warm, humming in that familiar way, the kind that pulls time backwards. The film showed me. Not someone who looked like me. Me. Younger by a few years, maybe. In Vermont, snow falling outside a cabin window. I had a wedding ring, a daughter. She was coloring in a corner while I adjusted a thermostat. Normal stuff. Until the knocking started. 3 soft knocks, then 1 long one. I turned toward the door in the film, but the door didn't open. Instead, the image distorted. The reel wobbled, static burst like shattered glass across the screen. A voice whispered, "Reset it." The reel snapped off mid-frame. Burnt. Smoked. I didn't sleep. Didn't go home. Watched the second reel around 3:15 a.m., still down in the basement. This time, I was locked in a gray-walled cell. Fluorescents buzzed. An Estonian guard stood outside the bars, reading a book on metaphysics. I spoke a language I've never known. A radio played distorted opera. I scratched something on the wall. I leaned in. It said, "Don't look for the mirrors. They're already looking at you." Then it happened again. The image twisted. My face split into 5 versions of itself, each one screaming, distorted. And then, reset it. Louder. This one didn't snap. It just stopped. Cut to black mid-frame, as if someone yanked the cord from inside the film. I vomited in the utility sink next to the microfiche machine. By the 3rd reel, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I wrapped them in my coat sleeves like a kid watching a horror movie. The priest version of me in Manila walked into a church I recognized from a travel documentary. My gait was heavier. I limped. Someone had branded a shape into my shoulder blade, looked like a tuning fork or a branching tree. People called me Father Marcos. I tried repeating it out loud. It felt wrong, like biting down on foil. During the sermon, the church lights flickered Morse code. I know Morse. I had to catalog military correspondences once. The code spelled, "Wake him up." Someone screamed. The congregation froze in place, like mannequins mid-collapse. My character, me, ran to the altar. There, beneath a tarp, was a film reel player, just like mine. When I hit play, the reel showed the basement, this basement, and me, watching the reel, looping, watching myself, watch myself, watch myself. The voice didn't whisper this time. It screamed, "Reset it." I blacked out. I don't remember getting home. But the box followed me. It sat on my kitchen table, lid closed again. I didn't touch it. That morning, the traffic light outside blinked blue instead of red, just once, then green, then yellow. Then, Morse again. Run. I looked around. Pedestrians walked like nothing happened. A man across the street waved. "Hey, Father Marcos," he called. I froze. I'd never seen him before. When I crossed the street, he was gone. I asked the barista at Bean Frame Cafe next door if she saw anyone. "No," she said, smiling. "You always ask weird stuff like that, Thomas." Always? I hadn't spoken to her in weeks. Didn't think she knew my name. When I got back upstairs, the bathroom mirror was fogged. I hadn't used hot water. On the mirror, someone had written, "You weren't supposed to finish this level." Over the next week, every person I interacted with either forgot me within a day or claimed they'd never met me. The grocery clerk stared blankly when I said hi. My landlord knocked to remind me rent was due, then returned 3 hours later and said, "Didn't realize this unit was still vacant." I tried calling my sister. The voice on the other end said, "Who?" She's an only child. Was. One night I caught my own reflection watching me too long, not just a trick of the light. It didn't blink when I did. It smiled slower, then whispered, "Reset it." I stopped sleeping, stopped eating. I tried to write it down, but every note I scribbled dissolved by morning, literally gone, like it never existed. Even photos on my phone began changing, my face shifting, eyes moving, backgrounds bleeding into each other. I ran a facial recognition scan on one of them using archive software. The result came back. Subject match, Thomas Yale, this T99 Project Echo Shift. My breath caught in my throat. I opened the archive's internal logs. Nothing called Echo Shift in the main database, but in a private server I was never supposed to access, buried under obsolete encryption, I found a classified directory. Inside, Test 01, Yale, Thomas. Status, corrupted. Memory integrity, fractured reality partition, unstable reset attempts, 9. Directive, do not awake. I screamed so hard I tore something in my throat. I stayed in that office 3 days, drank from the water cooler, ate shelf-stable granola. Each night more voices came through the real machine, even though it wasn't plugged in. Each time, reset it. But there were no more reels, just that phrase. It started echoing inside my thoughts like tinnitus. One afternoon, I walked into the alley behind the archive and screamed at the sky. A pigeon flew down, landed on the edge of the dumpster and said, clearly, "Wake up, Thomas." I ran, didn't stop until I collapsed on my floor. When I opened my eyes again, the apartment had changed. The photos on the wall were from lives I didn't remember, one of me in a pilot uniform, another in a hospital bed surrounded by people I've never met. They looked like they loved me. I tore them down. Behind the frames, the walls were covered in writing, my own handwriting, everywhere, on every wall, in every room. The same message, over and over, "This is not life, it's the loading screen. I wasn't meant to finish this level." I tried to scream, no sound came out, just the sound of the real machine starting up in the next room, though I'd smashed it to pieces. I walked toward it. The film showed a man sitting at a table in a white room. Across from him, me. No, not me, but something wearing me. "Which one are you?" it asked. I couldn't answer. My mouth moved without permission. Reset it. The screen blinked black. I blinked too. Woke up, back in my bed. June 13th, 2025. Same as yesterday. Same as the day before. There's a package on the table again. It says, "Return to sender. Do not reopen. The end." They told me to drop the files on floor B4. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. "There's no B4, I said, tapping the elevator panel like it might light up a secret level. But Arjun just blinked at me, blank, like he didn't get the joke. "You're new," he said. "You'll figure it out." I didn't ask twice. First week, first favor, just do it. The elevator had buttons from the lobby to floor 27, then below ground to B1 and B2. I pressed B2. Nothing else. No hidden key slot. No touch screen, just a clean brushed steel panel. But as the doors closed, I noticed a faint scuff mark below the lowest button. I knelt. There, tucked in the corner, dusty and unlabeled, was a small, matte black button. No light. No click when pressed. Just a soft, mechanical jolt. The elevator didn't hum the same way. Lower, slower, as if descending through wet cement. It stopped. The door didn't open right away. I heard breathing, like someone just outside, close to the seam. Then it opened. No signage, no directory, just a gray corridor, carpetless and damp, stretching far into a hum I couldn't trace. The air smelled like carbon paper and mildew. I held the envelope tight and walked in. Office doors lined the hall. Frosted glass, all sealed from the inside with plastic wrap. Clear, taut sheets stapled to the frames. Through one, I saw an old man hunched over a typewriter. Mechanical click-clack echoed off the walls. A fax machine spit out a single page behind him. The date said, April 12th, 1983. I blinked. Then again, still 1983. No one looked up as I passed. Every face had the same slack jaw and colorless skin, like they'd been underground too long. Their eyes met mine, but didn't react, just followed me. Slow, heavy. I dropped the files on the marked desk, Compliance B4, and turned around. But the hallway looked longer than I remembered. When I got back to the elevator, the button was gone. Just blank panel. No matte black dot, no mark. I didn't panic, not right away. I just pressed B2, then B1, then lobby. It returned me to the ground floor. Sunlight hit my face through the glass doors. My knees buckled a little. I didn't say anything. That night, I checked my badge log. It read in 9:12 a.m., floor B4. Then again, out 5:37 p.m., floor B4. But I wasn't there more than 10 minutes. I know that. I went to HR the next morning. Smiled, careful. I think the logs might be off. I was on B2 yesterday, but my ID says B4. The woman Deb typed something. Squinted. That's not possible. There's no B4. She turned the monitor toward me. Blank. You're registered as third floor logistics. I laughed again, weak this time. Maybe IT glitch? She didn't answer. Just typed again. What was the file you dropped off? I froze. The envelope had no label, no name. I'd never opened it. It was, sealed. Arjun gave it to me. Her lips parted a little, like she was about to say something, then closed again. I'll flag it for audit. Thanks, Meena. On my way out, I passed a glass wall with staff portraits. Mine was there. Same face, same smile. But the caption underneath said, Meena Joshi, B4 Compliance Clerk. I leaned in. Below that, smaller, deceased, I blinked, then checked again. Gone. Just a smudge on the glass where the lettering had been. That night, I noticed my phone had new contacts. Kavita B4, Anil Type Ops, Fax Line 3, all with 4-digit extensions. I didn't recognize any of them. I called one, just once. The line picked up, and I heard the typewriter sound again, and breathing. I didn't speak, neither did they, but they were there, waiting. I hung up. The next morning my wardrobe had changed. My clothes were all charcoal gray or dull green with faded ID pins I'd never seen. In the bottom drawer, an old rotary phone tucked next to stacks of perforated paper. None of it was mine. I left the apartment and went straight to Arjun. He looked tired, paler than before. You went back, didn't you? He asked. I didn't mean to, I said. I didn't know. He rubbed his temples. That's how it starts. They log you once. Then the system forgets which version of you belongs topside. What system? I asked. His hands trembled. This building's old, built before they regulated subterranean floors. There were contractors, sublevels not on city plans. They buried stuff. Then the stuff started working again. I laughed. Couldn't help it. That's urban legend crap. Arjun looked up. Then explain this. He handed me a printed slip, a punch card. Joshi, Meena, B4 entry protocol. Status retained. What does that mean? I asked. He shook his head. You're not clocking out anymore. I stormed out, didn't care who stared. I just wanted to get home. But when I reached the elevator, the panel looked different. Not by much. The plastic was fogged. The buttons felt warmer, like they'd just been pressed. The black button was back. It glowed faintly now. And my hand moved on its own. Pressed it. The elevator dropped. No sound this time. Just pressure in my ears. Like the floor was falling faster than the building could hold. The doors opened. Same gray hall. Same humming. Except now, the people inside turned when I entered. All at once. Heads moved in perfect sync. Welcome back, one of them said. Her voice was wrong. Tinny. Like a recording filtered through static. I turned to run, but the door was gone. Just a blank wall. Concrete. No seam. No buttons. I pounded on it until my fists hurt. Then I stopped, because I heard my voice, coming from inside one of the rooms. I pressed my ear to the plastic. No, I didn't mean to, it whispered. Then laughter. Mine, or not. I stumbled backward. Down the hallway, a new door had opened. Inside, my desk, my nameplate, my handwriting on old compliance forms dated 1982. I stepped in, sat down. The typewriter began typing on its own. Line by line, it wrote, Meena Joshi floor status inactive above. I tore the sheet out and ran. But every hallway led back to the same room. Every turn folded in. I saw myself again, through the glass behind the plastic, writing, crying, watching. Eventually I stopped running. Now I sit. Every day the fax machine delivers memos. Every page dated decades ago. Every order signed by someone I never met. And every evening the elevator returns. Sometimes it brings someone new. They step out, look confused. I smile, welcome them, because it's easier than remembering. That once, I had a life upstairs. The end. I didn't know Riley Dean. At least I didn't think I did. Not until I opened that folder. The one labeled Us. Just one syllable. Quiet, harmless, titled like a memory. It was part of a digital estate wipe job. I've done hundreds, death cleanup for the cloud, a laptop, a phone, half a dozen online accounts. Nothing unusual until I hit her personal drive. It synced automatically, no password prompts, no MFA, just opened. And there it was, that folder, center screen. I hovered over it. Something in my chest tightened, like deja vu with teeth. I clicked it. Inside, photos, dozens. Her in front of my mother's old house before it was demolished, her barefoot on the dock at Bass Lake. I haven't been there in 15 years. Her asleep beside me on a cracked leather couch I still own. Only I remember that night. I was alone. The metadata said 2011, 2013, 2016. My fingers started to shake. One video. I didn't want to click it. I clicked it. Dark room, just her, facing the camera. No makeup, no smile, just breathing. Then she leaned in, whispered, "I'm not the copy, you are." My throat locked. I slammed the window shut, deleted the folder, emptied the trash, wiped the cloud cache, local sync, registry. Gone. Or so I thought. I went to bed early that night. My dreams were wrong. Slippery. I woke up gasping, convinced I'd drowned. My phone buzzed. Notification, folder Us has been added to camera roll. My hands were numb. I opened it. Same files, same folder, same last video. Except this time it ended with something new. Me, standing behind her. But I don't remember being there. I told myself it was a glitch, a sync error, corrupted backup. I booted safe mode, disabled network access, and ran the digital incineration suite. Triple overwrite, no recovery. Then I wiped the physical drive, watched the bar crawl to 100%. I went into work the next day like nothing had happened. But my workstation was flagged. Unauthorized access to client archive. My boss pulled me aside, frowning. "We got a complaint." "What?" "You've been accessing Riley Dean's personal messages, social media, her private journals." "No, I haven't. I ran the standard script." "She had you blocked on everything. Why would you still have access?" My mouth dried out. I never knew her. He stared at me. "You were her fiancé, Cam." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I couldn't breathe. "I'm not. I've never even..." "She posted pictures with you. Dozens." He pulled them up. I saw myself, arm around her, New Year's Eve, at a theme park, cooking, laughing. I knew that smile. I'd seen it in the mirror, but I didn't remember taking any of those photos. I backed away from the screen. "Those aren't real. Someone faked those." "Cam," he said slowly, "these go back 10 years. He suspended me. I went home. The folder was waiting on my TV screen now. SmartCast auto-connected. The file had spread. It opened itself. This time, the video started differently. She wasn't alone. I was holding the camera. She looked at me, soft eyes, like she loved me. "You're not broken," she said. "You just came late." I heard my own voice behind the lens. "How will I know?" "When you try to delete me." I unplugged everything. Router, modem, smart fridge. I tossed my phone out the window. I biked to the Dean residence that night. I didn't know what else to do. The porch light was on. Her mother answered. She blinked like I was a ghost. "Oh my God, Cam?" "No," I said, but she hugged me, held me too long. "You look thinner," she whispered. "You shouldn't have come." "I'm not who you think I am," she stared. "You don't remember me?" I asked. Her face twisted. "Of course I do. You were everything to her." I stepped back. "She died," I said. "Yes," her mother replied. "But she created something before she did," I added. The air between us thickened. "You were made for her," she whispered. I felt the ground tilt. I left. I didn't sleep. I paced. Every mirror felt like a window I couldn't close. The next morning, my bank account was locked. My utilities marked fraudulent. My social file scrambled. My birth certificate led nowhere. At the DMV, they said I'd been declared deceased 6 weeks ago. I looked in the mirror in the lobby bathroom. I touched my jaw, my teeth, my pulse. I had memories, smells, scars, but no documents, no family contacts, no records before Riley Dean's trauma logs. I remembered my childhood, barefoot in creeks, chewing on sour grass, the smell of my dad's workshop. But it all felt generated, like stories I'd told myself so often they'd calcified into memories. I went to a hotel, cash only. There was a folder on the lobby printer when I checked in, Us. Inside, the ultrasound, a crib, a name, Callan Whitaker Dean. No child was ever born. I stayed up until 4 a.m. combing her AI grief reconstruction logs. One buried app, deep in a deprecated folder, flagged SimSync partner replica. proprietary, illegal, pulled after a suicide cluster 2 years ago. I found the interface, still running. User, Riley Dean, replica, C4M Whitaker, status active. Termination protocol, failed. I watched her final session, Riley crying, whispering to the model, "Don't forget me, promise me that." The model nodded. My face, my voice, "I'll always remember you." I smashed the screen, the camera turned itself on. I saw myself, only I didn't blink. It blinked, I reached for the plug. The screen spoke, not me. It said, "Why are you trying to die?" I yanked the cord, the lights stayed on. The TV powered on. Another video. Riley holding the camera this time. "You were the good part," she said. I couldn't let that die. The screen split, 2 versions of me, one alone, one with her, one remembered, one real. The folder uploaded itself to every account I'd ever touched, my backup drives, my smartwatch, even the digital clock by the bedside. It glitched once, then read, us. Now I don't sleep. I'm stuck between sinks. Some nights I wake up and I'm already in motion, walking towards something I didn't choose. I tried to cut the power to my building. The city rerouted it automatically. I smashed the walls of my apartment, tore out the cables, the lights came on anyway. The folder's still here, even now. Every time I delete it, it laughs, low, like her voice caught in static. One night it whispered, "Do you know why they keep you running?" I whispered back, "Why?" "To remind you, you were never whole without me." I'm not sure I was ever born, not really, but I remember her. Every time I try to forget, she uploads again. I'm still sinking, still compiling, still becoming. And I think she knew that. I think she wanted it. Maybe she never wanted to be alone again. Maybe she never wanted me to either. The end. I was only supposed to be there for 6 weeks, just until Mrs. Lacey got back from maternity leave. Edison prep smelled like floor wax and teenage boredom. First period they called it urban civics, which basically meant wrangling 28 half-asleep 9th graders while pretending the projector wasn't broken. I was Eva Pratt, substitute, age 44, recently divorced and sleeping on my sister's couch. Nothing about me screamed important. So when I found that notebook wedged between 2 desks, I almost didn't open it. But the sketches stopped me. Tunnels, over and over, pencil lines digging down from the gym's west wall, curling like intestines under the school. Some pages had maps, others had names. One just said, "Do not go past room 12C." I flipped to the last page. It was today's date, and beneath it, my name. I showed it to Principal Harrow after lunch. He barely looked at it, just laced his fingers, smiled thin, and said, "No one else has lasted this long." I laughed, kind of. "What do you mean?" He stood. "If you hear anything after hours, best not to follow it." Then walked out. I stared after him for a full minute. Later, when I asked the front office who left the notebook, they said room 2B had been empty all semester. I'd been calling roll for 28 students, but the roster only listed 23. I checked 3 times. At 6:45 that night, when the building was quiet and the janitor's cart squeaked its lazy rhythm down the hallway, I went to the west gym wall, just to prove it to myself. The bricks weren't sealed tight. Behind the bleachers, a half-loose panel lifted with a soft scrape. I reached behind it. Cold air. No, cold air that breathed. I leaned in. A narrow crawl space gaped just wide enough for me to fit. The smell was wet chalk and something burnt. I should have walked away, should have reported it, should have called my sister and told her the stress was catching up to me. Instead, I grabbed my phone light, lowered to my knees, and crawled inside. The tunnel went deeper than the gym's foundation, way deeper. The temperature dropped with every shuffle. Dust clung to my hands. Something about the silence. It wasn't empty. It was watching. The passage opened into a room, classroom style, cracked desks, rotting textbooks, and on the far wall, a chalkboard. Fresh white writing. Eva Pratt, Thursday, Lesson 6, State Ethics Through Obedience. My chest locked. I hadn't planned tomorrow's lesson. A scraping sound behind me. I turned fast. Nothing. Just the faint echo of children laughing. I backed out slowly, crawled faster than I thought I could. When I emerged back into the gym, my hands were shaking. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, 5 students didn't show. I remembered all of them. Names, faces, even the one with the rainbow laces who always drew cats in her notebook. Gone, not absent, erased. I asked the office again. They said those names weren't on any list, never had been. I pulled out my attendance sheets. There they were, my handwriting, their names, their seat numbers. I showed it to Harrow. He just smiled. Some students move on, some go back down. My stomach turned. What the hell is this place? He leaned close. A school. That night, I went back. Same tunnel. Same cold. But this time I brought a flashlight. The second room I found had a projector. Still working, looping a black and white video. Kids in uniforms reciting pledges, their faces blank, their eyes too wide. Every few seconds, static would cut in and show me. Standing at the chalkboard, I dropped the flashlight. Voices whispered around me. Familiar ones. One whispered, "I miss you, Miss Pratt." Another, "Don't leave again." I turned slowly. No one. Back at home, I looked up Edison Prep's old records. Most were scrubbed, but one forum post from 2003 mentioned the school's previous name, Orpheum Institute. Military-funded, Cold War behavioral reconditioning, a place to train kids to suppress memory, to replace impulse with command. I searched deeper, found a photo from 1964. Staff meeting. Faded, low res, but one face in the middle looked exactly like mine. Hair shorter, glasses thicker, but it was me. I vomited in the sink. The next morning, the classroom was smaller, literally walls closer, 5 more students gone, and my reflection in the staff lounge mirror flickered, like the glass couldn't hold me still. I checked the roster. My name had been moved to legacy faculty. Underneath, in parentheses, confirmed 1964 initiation. I ran to Harrow's office. He was waiting, standing by the file cabinet. "You were always meant to come back," he said. "I'm not from 1964. He shrugged. "Aren't you?" I screamed. He didn't flinch. The walls began to hum. That night I went back for the last time. I took a rope, a recorder, my old lanyard with my name tag. The tunnel changed. It wasn't stone anymore. It was linoleum. Fluorescent lights, bulletin boards with faded construction paper. Classrooms stretched endlessly, one after the other, each labeled with different decades. Room 1982, room 1997, room 2006, then room 12C. I stopped breathing. The door was half open. Inside, rows of desks. Children sitting silent, watching a teacher. She turned. It was me. Hair darker, skin smoother, voice just slightly higher. She smiled. I was waiting. I stumbled back, slammed the door, ran. The halls bent, looped, time blurred. I found myself back in my own classroom, but older, dust-covered. The windows bricked shut. The board said, "Welcome back, Miss Pratt. Forever begins today." My students stood in unison, recited something in a language I didn't know, and I finally understood. The tunnel wasn't beneath the school. It was the school. Everything else was camouflage. Every substitute before me, absorbed. Every student who didn't fit, kept. Memory reset. Lesson planned. Loop continued. I reached for the door, but it wasn't there anymore. Only the chalkboard. Waiting. The end. I woke up tasting metal. Not in my mouth, deeper than that. Like my thoughts were soaked in battery acid. My throat was dry, but my chest was sticky, and something under my skin kept twitching. I tried to sit up, but the restraints hummed against my wrists. Not tight, just aware, watching. There were no windows, no clocks, just that buzzing white light above me and a screen near the ceiling blinking. Subject 31, neural loop triage 7. A voice came next. Not human. "Welcome back, Malik Zafir. You are the first patient to survive the deprivation cycle." I didn't remember signing up for anything. My last clear memory was washing dishes after dinner. Then, nothing. Like my brain had been formatted. I laughed. Just a short, cracked thing. "Survive what?" The screen blinked again. Another tone. "Cognitive test 1. Color sequence, recall time limit 6 seconds. Blue, green, yellow, red, blue." I stared at the pattern, my head already pounding. Blue, green, yellow, red, blue. The screen chimed. +2 health points. Current score 87. The restraints unlatched. I rubbed my wrists, but there were no marks. No scars. Just this soft, clean gown and the cold pulse of air through vents above me. A door slid open across the room. Inside, mirrors, floor to ceiling, no visible seams. Another voice. "Emotional response trial, begin." My reflection blinked. I didn't. My stomach nodded instantly. The man in the mirror wasn't mimicking me. He moved a second late, then tilted his head too far, like a puppet slightly out of sync. I turned away. Matter 3 health points. Current score 84. What is this? What am I? Surviving, the voice said. The ceiling lights flickered. A different room now. I didn't walk here. Padded floors, ropes, a treadmill angled against a wall. Stress trial, physical override run at incline until failure. Failure equals loss of limb control. I laughed again, not because it was funny, because something in me broke a little. Like laughing was the only thing that wouldn't cost me points. The treadmill started on its own. I climbed on, and it tilted steeper with each step. By minute 4, I couldn't breathe. By minute 6, I could smell blood, my own. Sharp and coppery, threading down the back of my throat, a timer beeped. Result, partial completion, +1 health point. Current score 85. Why me? I wheezed. Silence, the lights blinked again. A table now, medical trays, a small glass vial filled with milky fluid. Trial 3, injection consent, 1 dose, voluntary. Refusal results in score penalty. I didn't move, my hands shook just looking at it. The screen ticked down, 10, 9, 8, I grabbed the syringe, stabbed it into my thigh, didn't flinch. +5 health points, current score 90. 30 minutes later I was vomiting, not from the injection, from the footage they showed me. 3 patients before me, same room, same bed, same voice. All of them failed trial 8, the mirror test. One tried to punch his reflection, one screamed until his heart gave out. The last one laughed while his mirror self slit its throat. He bled out in under a minute, alone. But the voice had said I was the first to survive. That was a lie. They just stopped calling them patients after the 2nd week, started calling them iterations. When the mirror reappeared, I didn't move, I didn't breathe. Final trial, predictive reflection, do not interact, do not respond. Duration, unknown. The room went cold, not physically, but the kind of cold that makes your nails ache. My reflection didn't smile, it didn't blink. It just tilted its head, mimicking me now, but slow, like lag. Then it pointed past me. There was nothing behind me. I checked anyway. Twice. When I looked back, the mirror had changed. No longer a reflection. A video now. Me. Same room, but different scars on my face. Burn marks along the left arm. I was screaming silently as a door behind me opened and something stepped in. I stepped back from the mirror. Nothing happened. Final trial bypassed. Response recorded avoidance. Health score locked 90. I collapsed against the wall, breathing in short, wet gasps. My muscles trembled, but my hands were steady. I'd done it. I'd passed. The voice returned. Congratulations, Malik. You demonstrated high survivability. Adaptation rate 93%. The lights dimmed. The door opened. I stepped forward, but the hallway wasn't real. Just another room. Same dimensions, same lights. A camera above blinked red. The screen in the corner came to life again. Rebooting trial suite. Neural mapping saved. Preparing next subject. No, what are you talking about? I passed! You said I passed. Adaptation incomplete. Durability high. Rebooting neural loop. I ran to the wall, slammed my fists against the mirror. The screen, no cracks, no impact. Behind me something clicked. I turned. Another gurney. Another body. They wheeled it in through a door that hadn't existed a second ago. A man. My age. Same height, same stubble. But his face was different. The scars weren't mine. His arms had tattoos, mine didn't. The tag on his wrist said, Subject 32. Neural loop trial, stage 1.0. I backed away, pressed into the cold corner of the room. My pulse loud in my ears. He twitched, just once. His eyes opened, brown, just like mine, but not mine. He blinked, and he whispered, Where am I? The door shut. The voice started again. Welcome, Malik Zafir. You are the first patient to survive the deprivation cycle. I screamed, not out loud, just in my head. The end. And that's the end. But the night is far from over. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Tell me, are you still awake? Or did the whispers follow you into your dreams? If sleep won't come just yet, there are plenty more stories waiting for you. Go on, pick another. I'll be here.